any of your friends want to, feel free. The link is there everywhere on social media. So maybe you should just come by there.
Super.
We have another 1 minute, so we begin right then. Is it 5, everybody?
Yes,
is it 5
yes,
o'clock? Yes, Jagdish.
It is.
So officially we're beginning, and the others will keep joining us. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. So you can see the program here. And I think we can take off the slide. Okay. So thank you so much. So yeah, a very, very warm good evening to everybody. And thank you so much for coming by. And we begin our session today on heart health. Basically, it's about keeping your heart healthy. My name is Dr. Ushi, and I'll just be hanging out here so that I can introduce you to all the wonderful people over here and maybe in some ways add value as well. So I heard this brilliant saying, which I want to share and start the day. It says, don't sell the sun to buy a candle. And I think preventive philosophies are something like that. And this entire concept of trying to go into this wellness with the help of all the esteemed panel is because we want people out there to understand that you need not fall sick. You really need not get sick for you to actually be visiting a doctor. I'm sure a lot of doctors over here are very capable of helping you prevent a lot of things. And I think the future is much better off when all of us are healthy and happy. And I share my philosophy over here very clearly that unless you are happy, you can never be healthy. And unless you are healthy, ladies and gentlemen, you can never be happy. So I think the entire panel over here, after having spoken to them and after having interacted with them, I believe believes in the concept of prevention a lot. They also believe in being kind to people. And they for sure believe that science is above commerce. And I think there's nothing wrong with making money, but they also believe that science is definitely above commerce. They come with years of experience. They come with years of wisdom. And finally, they're here to just speak in a language where all of us understand. These programs are conceived for general public, but for all the doctors who've come in and logged in from different parts of the world, thank you so much. It means a lot. It's all because of Dr. Sri Kumar and also the friends that I have. It means a lot. Some of my seniors and some of my classmates from Davangere, all of you who have logged in, all the old alumnus of JJMMC, thank you so much. My friends from Facebook, Twitter, and everyone else who's just come by with just a message. It's this time to say thank you to everybody. Now, as we go along, this is going to be a session where we have just a crisp opening, and then we move on to every single person in the panel. By now, I'm sure you must have gone through the posters, but just to make it clear, we've chosen a couple of topics which are really, really interesting and troubling people most of the time. Either they are too sure about it because of Google University, or they're full of doubt because they read too much from Google as well as WhatsApp. In today's world, where people are connected more to devices and less to people, I believe that all your information comes in from the internet. And there is a danger involved in it. You must take it with a pinch of salt. Everything that you see there, starting from a small pimple on your upper lip, can be fatal if you just go there and read Google. So there's no reason for alarm. I think the news anchors are causing enough alarm to all of us. Every time they look at us and say, good evening, and then they go on to tell us why it's not a great evening. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to stick to being positive as much as possible and talk sense. Now, each one of our speakers will speak for about 12 to 14 minutes, following which, after everybody's talk, only then will we have the question and answer session. So to start and flag off the session, I have a very dear friend. I'm going to keep this very short. For those of you who know Dr. Sri Kumar, he's a wonderful human being. I can vouch for that. Not at all discounting his 30 plus years of experience as an ENT and head and neck surgeon. He has his own training center called Saukya in Kochi. So he teaches people. He also trains people and allots degrees and diplomas. He's the founding father of INMA, which is the Nutritional Medicine Association. He also is responsible for getting graduates across the world familiar with environmental medicine as well as nutritional medicine. I have heard him and known him for the last a decade and a half, and I think he's a man who's a workaholic. I've rarely seen him do anything other than work. Day in and day out, he's always saying, what can I do for people? What can I do for people? The only one time when I've seen him relax is when he goes to the Rotary meetings. And I think there too, he goes there because he finds people whom he can help. Now, a dear, dear friend, I believe he's silent most of the time, very strategic, and of course, extremely supportive, with a big, big smile, with a lots of cheer. Please welcome Dr. Sri Kumar to just give us his views on why we are having this. The screen is all yours, Dr. Sri.
Thank you, Dr. Ushi, for the wonderful words. And good evening to all my colleagues and my friends from all over, not only from India, but all over the world. Maybe a lot of doctors, a lot of non-doctors who are here. And Dr. Ushi has introduced me as a head and neck surgeon. That is my specialty. But my specialty as a surgeon started from heart. I was in the cardiothoracic surgery unit in Trivandrum under the guideship and professorship of Professor late Dr. M.R.S. Menon. And I am just 1 year junior to Dr. Bashi, who is a very great cardiac surgeon in Chennai working now. So let me take to heart, because the first time I took my heart in my hand, and it was given to me by the professor and said, first hold the hand and feel the heart if you want to become a good doctor. And it took almost 7 to 10 days for me to hold the heart correctly on my palm. So I want to talk about this, or maybe start this session, especially on heart health. But unfortunately, this is the cardiac disease is supposed to be the #1 cause of death in all over the world. Maybe it is crossing around 18 millions today. And 75% of the deaths are happening in the low and middle income countries. And in India, we are not far behind. It is very, very on the top of the list, and a lot of diseases are there. I will just share one of my experience and then switch over, and why, especially the functional status is very important, especially in managing cardiac disease. Recently, I had, maybe 2 years back, a patient came to me around 75 years who cannot be taken for any surgery, and seen by one of my classmate and friend who is a cardiology professor. And he sent this patient to me stating that, okay, he needs only some supportive therapy. The patient had a wonderful vision.
There is a lot of echo somewhere. So I'm just muting everybody except Dr.
Please
Sri.
mute everybody. Sri, just unmute yourself. Yes, I'll continue. Yeah.
Okay. So when I asked him what he wants, he said he was a 75-year-old person. He has an ambition in his life to go to Mecca. And I know that he could not even walk 10 steps to his. So he said, doctor, this is my only ambition in my life. I said, I will try to help you what all things way as possible. But I just improved his function on various things that I do. And in the 1 year, last year, maybe the last season, he had gone to Mecca and came back, and he had to look after his 2 sons who were with him. And he said he was the most healthy of the lot. So I mean to say here, whatever is the age, you can make your heart healthier. And when we say that, we can see today a lot of youngsters coming with a lot of heart disease. And the question a lot of people ask me, because when I am sitting, I am not a cardiologist, but sitting, and a lot of patients come to me for a lot of other advice, and they ask me one question: why not everyone with this problem getting a heart disease? For example, high blood pressure or cholesterol, or maybe a fast lifestyle and all these things. Why everyone is not getting a heart disease, only me? And again, the same thing comes, especially with when we concentrate on how to manage the case. So this is my point of view in saying what is the real, because the cause factor for heart disease is something really different. What we normally look at is for treatment is the effect of our dysfunction. Effect of our dysfunction means your heart has to function like this, it is not functioning, and there is some problem. So you are catching hold of that particular portion, and we are actually trying to correct it by giving medicines or doing surgery. But here there is a point in which that has to say, today we are living in a world, and it is not just because of something came in between that we get a disease. We get a disease because, especially on the heart, because something has been very wrong, especially at the cellular level or at the subcellular level. You can say it at the atomic level. So even if you correct all the things, especially from outside, you have to correct the inside also. So I believe that you have to correct from both the sides. That means the conventional medical system has to be there, and the natural medical system has to come actually to place the cellular metabolism intact. So there is a mixture. So I believe here it is the integrative functional cellular medicine that is going to work. So otherwise you can see the correction of cellular physiology. If you say the function of the cell has to be corrected, medicines cannot correct the physiology of a cell. It is only the natural things, natural food, natural nutrition, nutrients. And we have seen in our experience, lot of toxins also going into the system and affecting the heart. So if you really speak on the how to manage heart disease, which I think we were instrumental for the last more than 18 years in managing severe, a lot of cases is how we manage is we remove the toxins, we address on the detoxification, then we address on the cellular physiology or cellular function along with the conventional medical management. So on one side comes the natural therapy on nutrition, nutritional supplements, and on the and especially on other side comes the detoxification, and then comes the conventional medical system. Maybe sometimes you may have to do surgery or you have to do medications and all these things. So it is an integrative cellular functional medicine that is going to hold the key, maybe today and maybe for the future. I know that today COVID is also one of the reasons for producing a lot of people with cardiac problems and heart attacks and maybe deaths. But here we have to understand that, okay, medicines and this thing alone will not take it, because we have done a lot of research and we have practical experience, especially in managing ICU in COVID. And I think we have some expert cardiologists in Apollo and other hospitals are also doing it in a big way. With these opening remarks, I think the floor is open for further lot of things in academics to come from different experts. And I want to hear from them, and we can have a correlated approach, which we can say for a better life of the human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sri. And that was Dr. Sri Kumar, ladies and gentlemen, for you. Now, I'll make all my interventions very quick so that you can hear from the panelists much more than you can hear from me. Now, in standard movies, especially Bollywood movies, when you see somebody suffering from a heart problem, you know, they clutch their heart, they have so much of pain, they are writhing, they're making all kinds of noise, falling on the floor, etc. But believe me, in real life, it's not always the same, and it need not always be the same either. I have seen people who have just a light shoulder ache, who have just some slight arm pain, and it doesn't mean that everybody who has that has a problem. But there were times when they had even difficulty carrying a handbag on one shoulder, and they were requested to move over to the other shoulder. So I think today is all about increasing your awareness. It's also about asking questions, because you have the right panel here, and talking to the basics, talking starting from scratch. So to take this session forward, I think if we do not have an overview as to what to expect, how to understand, how to watch yourself more, what are the signs and the symptoms that we expect and we need to understand as being just common man who's not qualified within the confines of our home. For example, right now, I hope all of us are fine and confined. But if there is a problem, you should be able to tackle it, or you should be able to reach somebody for assistance and also for peace of mind. So to take this session forward, I have this young, bubbly, vivacious lady. And the moment you see her, for me, I always perceive high energy. Doesn't take away from all the multiple qualifications that she has. She was in Cleveland, Ohio, spent a good number of years studying, not just from Jaipur, but moved on to the US. And 11 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, she came back and joined Fortis. Somebody who's really a specialist with not just tuberculosis and diabetes, somebody who's written multiple books, textbooks, followed across by students, multiple publications in index journals. Her bio is unending. But on a lighter note, I'd like to keep it personal, because I think this session is about public and all of us. She's a great ardent lover of classical music when I asked her. And she says she loves doing Zumba, which means that, have you ever met doctors who also have a side which is so intense? And at the end of the day, she says there is something that she really wants to learn in future. Being a great fan of Kenny G, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome with a big smile onto the screen a fan and someone who's dying to learn the saxophone. I have Dr. Shalini Joshi, and I think the screen is all yours, Shalini. So just go for it. Yes.
Thank you for all the love, Ushi, and a big welcome to all. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
So, heart.
Yeah.
The symbol of our emotions and the seat of our soul. And in our daily lives, in and out, in our general conversations, I think we mention our heart, dil, a lot of times. Aaj to dil nahi kar raha, aaj to, dil hai ki manta nahi. As soon as you see a samosa in front of you, you want to eat it. But, you always do what your heart desires. But do you actually do what your heart desires you to do to take care of its health? So, topic of my talk today is do your part and care for your heart. So, have you ever wondered what is this powerhouse inside you which keeps beating from the womb at 6 weeks till the last breath? Your heart is the size of a fist. It's just all muscle. It has 4 chambers, 2 upper and lower, connected to the walls, and it supplies the entire body. It had its own plumbing system called coronary arteries, and 5 liters of blood is continuously circulated throughout your body. It is an amazing organ. But when something bad happens in the plumbing pipes, this organ gets sick. It is called coronary artery disease. Coronary artery disease simply means damage to the coronary arteries, which become narrow, hardened, and a buildup of fatty deposits called plaque on the inner walls, causing them to thicken. It becomes narrow over time, causing blockage, leading to chest pain, which we call angina. Now, if this continues, there can be complete cutoff of the blood flow to the heart muscle, and boom, you have a heart attack. If blood flow is not restored in time, it weakens the heart, leading to heart failure. In simple terms, the heart is unable to pump blood effectively. Now let's talk about some factors which can lead to heart attack, which we call as risk factors. According to an Indian study, South Asian men have a heart attack decade earlier than their Western counterparts. And we all know what the risk factors are. We see high cholesterol, a lot of people are suffering from hypertension. Diabetes is like an epidemic. And have you seen that apple-shaped body? That is the abdominal obesity. That's a risk factor in itself. Smoking, excessive alcohol, and a sedentary lifestyle. That's the reason why we are seeing so many heart attacks in young people. So let's discuss it briefly, one at a time, the risk factors. In patients suffering from high blood pressure, the heart really has to pump harder, which results in thickening of the left ventricle, which becomes stiff over time. And it increases the risk of a heart attack and even sudden death. Cholesterol. We all know high cholesterol is deleterious to health, So I've seen people struggling with their diet, and sometimes they're doing everything correct by the book, and still their cholesterol is high. That could be your genes. So then do not hesitate to take the pill on the doctor's advice. So do the right thing and do not delay it anymore. To listen to more about the facts, trans facts, MUFA and PUFA, we have a detailed and interesting session later today. So make sure you stick around. Let's switch gears to diabetes. We Indians are extremely sweet people. We have close to 75 million people with diabetes in our own country. Well, diabetes is a metabolic disorder. High sugars in the blood because insulin doesn't work properly and affects almost every cell and organ of our body. And it makes it dangerous in diabetics because sometimes they can't even feel the pain because diabetics affects the nerves and the blood vessels which carry the pain signal sometimes, and hence they can suffer serious consequences. Now to talk about physical inactivity, it is said to double the risk of heart disease. You should keep moving. Goal, of at least 8 to 10,000 steps a day. Heart is a muscle. It needs to be exercised regularly to keep fit. Overweight and obesity is yet another epidemic we are facing worldwide. Abdominal obesity, you must have heard this term many times. What is that? It is simply deposits of fat around the waist. It's a risk factor in itself. So if you measure your waist just above your belly, below your belly button, and your hips, if the ratio is more than 0.85 in females and more than 1 in men, it suggests you have excessive weight around the middle. You're apple shaped. I think you should go and get a measuring thing after this session and measure yourself. You'll figure out what is your waist hip ratio, which could be a risk factor. Let's move on to another factor. I'm going to quote a number, 12 crore. What is this number? Well, it is the number of Indians who use tobacco in form of cigarettes, bidi, jarda, tambaku, um, hogusopu, easily available to anyone. Hookah, vaping, e-cigarettes, you name it. Everything is out there. Now, people who smoke are 2 to 4 times more likely to get heart disease. Tobacco smoke contains nicotine, carbon monoxide, various carcinogen, which means cancer producing harmful substances. They not only produce cancer, but are harmful to the inner lining of the arteries. They make platelets more sticky, causing them to clump together and resulting in a heart attack sometimes. Smokeless tobacco also is a huge problem, which is equally harmful. Now, excessive alcohol, we know, is a leading cause of premature death in young females. 10 drinks in a day doubles your risk of having atrial fibrillation. That term means like haphazard beating of the heart. And researchers, interesting study, they did a study on a bunch of college kids in University of Illinois, Chicago. They found that boys who were binge drinking, now what is binge drinking? More than 5 drinks in a 2-hour span, had damage to their endothelial cells. That is the cells lining our blood vessels. So students should really understand the consequence of binge drinking. What you drink now can affect your heart health later in life. I really wanted to draw attention to this point. Want to add here, now going to see your doctor for your annual health exam and taking care of your individual risk factor is a smart thing to do. Now let's talk about some advances. There have been incredible advances in our field of medical sciences, cardiology. If your heart loses its beat, we can pace it. If your heart has a severe blockage, we can put a stent or bypass it. If the pump becomes weak, we can put a device which can pump for you. We can even replace a failing heart with another one. And we have 2 gentlemen here in the panel who have been doing all of the above for many, many years. So you say, pills and procedure, is that the only things doctors have to offer? No, we can do more. But you have to do your part. 4 out of 5 heart attacks could be prevented with simple things like changing your lifestyle. I know it's simple to say, but it takes a real motivation, determination, and persistence and perseverance to change your lifestyle. It's difficult to change behavior, but we can do that. Now, the way our society nowadays, I mean, pre-corona days, is like somehow surviving the weekdays and crashing into the weekends and binging on food and Netflix with this vicious cycle repeating with no end in sight. I think we should change from surviving to living. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 21st century. Everyone is aware of the symptoms of heart attack. Now, a vivid picture comes in front of our eyes when we say heart attack. A male grabbing his chest with crushing pain. Honestly, how many of you saw a lady in her 50s when I said heart attack? Well, that's all the more reason I wanted to talk about this notorious disease which kills more women than breast cancer. As Dr. Ushi mentioned initially in the talk, the symptoms could be varied. It could be a typical chest pain with crushing type, or somebody feeling a rock in front on the chest, or pain in the jaw, neck, shoulder, radiating to the arm. But in females, it could be atypical. It could be just fatigue. It could be nausea. It could be some stomach pain, which gets brushed off under the carpet. So I want to talk about few mistakes women make. First thing, ignoring their symptoms. Tired, fatigue. Oh, maybe I must have done some work. Oh, I'm too busy now. My kids have boards exam. I will go later. You know, I don't think we should do that. And most of the time, people say that, oh, I don't feel my blood pressure is high. I'm fine. They don't even go to check their blood pressure. And few people choose unrealistic exercise regimes, or like superwoman, like I will drop the kids, go do my work on the way, stop to the gym. Well, that never happens, and they slack off. So there's only stress, 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 and no exercise. I want to add here that when you go to see a doctor, you should tell your entire medical history, like what you had in early life. Maybe you had a GDM, gestational diabetes, meaning sugar's high when you were younger, or you had a preeclampsia, you had high BP during delivery time, which can later on present. So the doctor can keep a close watch on you. And many people I've seen are unaware of the dangers of a premature menopause, meaning having menopause before 40. Now, I like to point out with blunders by men also. They really want to skip their preventive checkup, or they think, oh, I'm too young to have a heart attack. And sometimes they ignore the symptom. Oh, it must be the samosa I ate last night, the gas. Let me take some Eno. And while they might be having a heart attack at that time, at the other end of the spectrum, there are few people who said, oh, leave it to the fate. I think jo kismat mein hoga, dekha jayega. I have heart problems in my family and I can't escape no matter what I do. I don't think that is the right attitude. And one should not ignore erectile dysfunction. It could be a cause. You should get it checked out from the doctor. Nowadays, we see this phenomena, we call it sedentary people impulsively signing up for marathons. I mean, I'm talking about pre-corona, without any training and jump to do a marathon. That's not the right thing to do. Please check with your doctor first. So when we have talked about all the problems. Now, let's talk about the solutions. Diet. When it comes to nutrition and diet, the internet could be a very confusing place. So if you are going on a diet, then you will eventually go off the diet. So it could be any permutations and combination, but do not go on extreme diets. High carb or very low carb diets are dangerous to health. Plant proteins in general are superior to animal proteins. We all need good prebiotics, probiotics, preferably in the natural forms. Fermented homemade recipes. Eat healthy carbs, brown rice, millets, oats, ragi, whole wheat. What can I drink, you say? Natural is the word. Buttermilk, lassi, coconut water, lemonade, homemade vegetable soup, anything which doesn't come out of a can. 1 can of soda, 20 ounces, has 17 teaspoons of sugar. That has absolutely no nutrition, excess calories, lots of sugar, which causes harm to your teeth, heart, and everything in between.
Dr. Shalini, one more minute.
Yes.
Please. One more minute.
Okay. So basically, don't eat out of the farms, not from the factories. In short, avoid any food which is on TV commercial. Exercise regularly. Keep it simple. 30 minutes a day and 5 days a week. Do weight training as well. So basically, sit less, move more, and meditation, yoga, sun is absolutely fabulous, and you should do it. Very much like going overboard, high intensity, high endurance exercise is not needed. And sleep, I can't stress enough the importance of sleep and sleep hygiene. Quit tobacco. I have launched a campaign, Quit in Quarantine. You can do that. Alcohol should not be consumed at all, I believe. Very, very in moderation, social occasions. Reduce stress, be happy, manage your emotions, laugh a lot, enjoy every moment. And I believe, don't make excuses that you don't have time for yourself. And action items 3, just do it. Positive attitude, positive thinking, healthy lifestyle, adequate sleep, managing your stress, and being happy keeps your heart healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shalini. Thank you so much. Now, I have a lot of patients who come to me and keep crying that tasks that were very painless have all of a sudden become very difficult to do. Like maybe cleaning the house, mowing the lawn, taking a regular walk. They start getting shortness of breath. They feel the heartbeat. They have lots of issues as they keep doing their regular tasks, which until then they did not have any problem doing. So sometimes I believe that the people also need to be aware of such symptoms. Thank you for all the wonderful pointers. I'm sure the people who are listening to us will have a lot of takeaways. Now, to continue this session forward, there's this young man I met on Twitter. And in my quest for finding a good doctor, there's not a place in this world that I haven't really searched. And there was one gentleman who responded quickly, who responded kindly, and who was really prompt on my request to share his number. And I said, you know what, I'm not a stalker. And I clearly remember this because online, you don't know why people are doing what they're doing sometimes. And I just took the risk, and believe me, it's a blessing in disguise. I'm so glad I met this gentleman. I'm so glad that he's from one of the premier institutes in the country. He's from the reputed PGI Chandigarh. And I believe that he's got years of experience that's backing him. Currently, he's the head of interventional cardiology in Aster, and there's nothing he doesn't do medically. He's as simple as maybe getting a guy to quit smoking, and sometimes you'd see him the next moment doing an angioplasty. So for him, everything is as simple as just getting somebody to do something that you're really good at. I believe that at all points in time, he's a great and avid reader. He's a runner and he's a blogger. So he does have a great amount of interest in all things that I believe many doctors have lost touch with. Ladies and gentlemen, to introduce the next person who is going to be talking about a topic which 90% of us keep suffering from. We don't know about it. We keep talking about it and do nothing about it. To talk more about blood pressure, whether it's high or low, let's please welcome to the screen Dr. Somalaram Venkatesh. Welcome, Venkatesh, and please, it's your turn to share the screen. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for your kind words. And thanks, Dr. Ushi, for inviting me here amongst these great panelists. We just heard Dr. Shalini, and she did a wonderful job. I think what she did was she compressed two of my biggest textbooks of medicine and cardiology, and also Dr. Srikumar's holistic medicine, and all in that 12, 13 minutes of wonderful talk. So for me, I'm a very simple guy, so I take a very small topic. It's an easy topic for me to actually say a few words about. But I believe that it's one of the most important public health problems across the world. And therefore, I talk about the problem of hypertension. And here I am, I'm going to share my screen and show some PowerPoint pictures, and then let's see how it goes. Just a moment, if you don't mind. Yeah, there we are. So hypertension, the word conjures up something different for everybody. When I ask some patients as to, do you have hypertension, I can see that they have some kind of tension over there. So it's not always that we talk about tension as hypertension. Hypertension is actually a physical thing. It's not just about the stress around us. Some people say, I don't have any stress in my life. How do I get hypertension? But it's not about all that. We do not really know why hypertension happens. So first of all, let's look at some simple facts. What is blood pressure? When the heart is pumping, it forces blood through the vessels, through the arteries, and at that time, the arteries are under pressure while dilating and contracting. So the heart pumps pressure which is exerted on the blood vessels is called as blood pressure. When the heart contracts, the pressure is more, and that we call as systolic blood pressure, or SBP, as you see in this picture. When the heart relaxes, the pressure is not that high, and we call it as diastolic blood pressure and DBP. Now, both systolic as well as diastolic blood pressure are important. Elevation of either of them can cause problems for our health. Now, there has been always a question of what is normal blood pressure and abnormal blood pressure. Every year we see some or the other experts coming up and saying, now the normal blood pressure is 120, now the normal blood pressure is 140. So everybody is confused as to what exactly is high blood pressure. When do we start taking treatment? So to look at this, very, very many societies have said what is normal, what is abnormal. But I think the simplest rule to follow is that normal blood pressure is 120 by 80 millimeters of mercury. Now, and also when we talk about high blood pressure, I think simplistically we can say any blood pressure which is 140 systolic or 90 systolic diastolic and above can be considered as abnormal. A lot of people say different things. New guidelines come each year lowering this threshold, but I think it is safe to stick with this 140 and 90 as the limits for blood pressures. Dr. Ushi said you should also talk about low blood pressure. As a cardiologist, let me tell you, there is nothing called low blood pressure. There are people who are coming to the clinic and saying that, doc, I have low blood pressure. I'm always tired. I'm always fatigued. Typically, we see in young people, young women who are thin and always look tired. Now, when they check their blood pressure, it could be 80 millimeters of mercury or 90 millimeters of mercury, the systolic. But this is not low blood pressure. If you have been standing around with 90 millimeters of mercury, you have no low blood pressure. In fact, your blood pressure is normal. The lower the blood pressure, people say, is the longer your life is. What is really low blood pressure is somebody's BP is, let us say, 140. And because, let's say, they have vomiting or diarrhea or a heart attack, and then the blood pressure comes down from 140 to say 100 or 90. That fall in blood pressure, what we call as hypotension, is low blood pressure. Otherwise, there could be perfectly normal human beings with blood pressure of 85 or 90 walking around. So as long as somebody is walking, there is no giddiness or dizziness or blackness in front of the eyes, and the blood pressure has always been around that, one does not have to think one is having low blood pressure. It's constitutionally low, and one need not worry about low blood pressure unless your blood pressure has been traditionally higher and suddenly it comes down. So low blood pressure is not a disease unless it's because of some other medical problems. Now a question comes, why treat hypertension? I've been having blood pressure for 10 years. My blood pressure is always high. Why should I treat? Let me quickly run through the consequences of blood pressure. If blood pressure remains high for a long period of time, these are the problems. Patient can have a brain stroke. There could be a heart attack. The hardened blood vessels in the body can lead to a lot of problems like aneurysms or gangrene and things like that. Brain hemorrhage is one of the consequences. One could have vision loss. There could be a heart failure where the heart doesn't pump properly. And then there is always a question of kidney failure. So high blood pressure for a long period of time can lead to a lot of consequences. Therefore, we must treat hypertension. This is the reason why we should treat hypertension. But why is there so much hypertension? Why is there so many complications? Is hypertension very difficult to diagnose and treat? Actually, no. If you look at it, there are no complex body scans for the high blood pressure. You don't have to do many blood tests. There are no injections for treatment of high blood pressure unless it's an emergency. No scary bypass surgeries and cancer surgeries are required. And even the treatment doesn't cause lakhs and lakhs of rupees. It's just simple tablets. Then why is this? That is 27% of all Indian men and 20% of all Indian women are estimated to have hypertension. Out of that, if you go to the villages, only a quarter of them know that they have hypertension. About 40% of urban people, hypertensives, know that they have blood pressure. If you go to a city, 60% of high BP patients do not even know that they have hypertension. Then those who are diagnosed to have hypertension, only about a quarter of people in the villages and about 1/3 of people in the cities receive treatment. And out of them, it is very difficult to say how many have actually good control. Even in the US, if you look at this, about 80% of all hypertensives know that they have hypertension, and only about 50% receive adequate and appropriate treatment. So these are figures. Why is this? It's such an easy disease to diagnose, and it's such an easy disease to treat. Unfortunately, because of this kind of disease burden, it is said that about 1.63 million deaths happen in India only attributable to hypertension because of all the complications. So I think it's very sad that in this day and age, so many people suffer and so many people lose lives and have complications because of this. I think it's the number one public health problem for us, and we must go ahead and get it treated. Now, we are sitting in a very somber time. There is a COVID pandemic going on. So in this context, hypertension again becomes very important. There are studies which say that people with comorbidities like hypertension are at a higher risk of developing COVID. In fact, one study from China says that about 55% of patients who have COVID infection have hypertension. Again, a large study has shown that if a mortality rate, that is case fatality rate of COVID infection is 2.3% of all people who are infected, if you look at hypertensives, it is almost 3 times that. 6% of hypertensives die during a COVID infection. Therefore, diagnosis, treatment, and management of hypertension becomes even more important during a COVID pandemic. Now, we know that during this time of COVID, we are telling patients don't come to the hospitals or clinics unless it's an emergency. So therefore, home monitoring of BP is something which I want to talk about. It's very, very important. Please remember that it doesn't mean that self-treatment. One diagnoses one's own blood pressure, which is to be high, and start taking medicines. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is we must monitor and report to our doctors online, maybe on a video consultation or something. Why is home monitoring important? Because some people are there who go to the hospital and their BP seem to be high, but at home their blood pressure is fine. These are called as white coat hypertension. It's real. It happens to many patients. They are fine at home, but when they go to a clinic or a hospital, their blood pressure is high because of the tension. So home monitoring will help us diagnose white coat hypertension. White coat hypertension need not be treated. Therefore, at home, if your blood pressure is fine, you just report it to your doctor, and there is no medical treatment for that. There is no drug treatment for that. Again, in COVID, as I said, we don't want non-urgent patients to come to the hospital. And today we know that digital apparatus are good. There are a lot of people who say that these apparatuses are not accurate. They keep giving different readings at different times. I get funny readings like 161/63. How is this possible? Let me tell you, even when doctors measure the blood pressure, the BP fluctuates every minute. Each reading is different. We also get blood pressure readings like 124/62, but we just don't tell you. We round it off to the nearest and say that your blood pressure is 130/70 or 160/90. God didn't make round figures blood pressure and send us, isn't it? So these apparatus are now reasonably accurate. If you could land a small probe 1 meter big, 4 million kilometers away on a 4-kilometer radius asteroid, you can definitely get your blood pressure apparatus right. This is what the scientists have done. The blood pressure digital records are good. To use a mercury BP apparatus or an aneroid BP apparatus and a stethoscope at home can be fraught with difficulties and errors. Therefore, a digital BP apparatus is good enough to monitor at home. So please use them, and therefore you can get your blood pressure monitored. Only precaution is that you must get your device calibrated or checked by the doctor whenever you go to the doctor. Now, how do you check the blood pressure at home? There are certain precautions. There is a way in which you sit. You have to sit and take and not lie down and take the blood pressure. Both feet should be on the ground. The legs should not be crossed. The arm should be supported on, let us say, a dining table. You must be supported, the back must be supported, and the BP cuff should be tied on a bare upper arm. And then we shouldn't have had food or caffeinated beverages for the last 30 minutes. No extraordinary physical or psychological stress in the last 30 minutes. The bladder should be empty. The patient should tie the cuff, sit and relax and not speak. Typically, we say take 3 readings, maybe about 1 or 2 minutes apart, and average it out. That is your blood pressure. If it is very cumbersome, I tell my patients, ignore the first reading, give it about 2 minutes time, take the second reading, and your blood pressure recording should be nearer the average. So this way, if we monitor the blood pressure, we are able to report to the doctor, and based on that, the doctor can give a good treatment. Now, question of how often should we check our blood pressure arises. If you're not a hypertensive, you've never had hypertension in the past, and your age is above 18, maybe once a year should be fine. For people who are over 40 and those who are diabetic or some other medical problem, we say we must check your blood pressure once in 6 months. Again, if a patient is well controlled, hypertensive, is on drugs, the blood pressure is under target range, then maybe once in a month or once in 2 months should be sufficient. But if somebody's blood pressure is not well controlled, your physician, your doctor can say check more often, sometimes even daily. So more frequent checking for patients who are not well-controlled blood pressure. And also when a new drug is initiated, the doctor will want to know how it affects. So there will be more frequent blood pressure checks. I'll come to lifestyle measures to control blood pressure. This will be among my last slides. I know that this is just rolling the ball for question answers which are there to come. So I'm not covering the entire topic of hypertension. I'm just going to say a few words about lifestyle at the end. So we have to talk about healthy diets. The most important thing I believe is cutting carbs. Moderate salt restriction is important. There are excellent nutritionists. There is going to be a session on that. I don't want to get into that. Ultra processed food should be avoided, and addition of vegetables is important. Smoking should be stopped. Dr. Shalini mentioned that. Cut or completely avoid alcohol. That's great. We should be very careful about self-medicating, especially painkillers, because painkillers have a nasty habit of spoiling our kidney and heart, and more importantly, getting our blood pressure high unnecessarily. And then there is a healthy lifestyle, regular exercise, reduction of weight, managing stress, and above all, enjoy a hobby, because once we retire, we don't know what to do with our life. That itself is a tension and hypertension. Well, I'll come to my last slide. Hypertension is a very common, often unrecognized. There are no symptoms, because of which it is called as silent killer. It's a deadly disease. It accounts for a large number of cardiovascular complications and a good number of deaths across the world. Recognition and treatment is very, very easy. But for individuals, control of hypertension after diagnosis must be a top health priority. It's easy, just needs motivation. And for countries, I think it's very important that we diagnose our patients with hypertension, make a good investment in recognizing and treating hypertension well. A large burden of complications to the kidney and the brain and the heart can be reduced. Our healthcare costs to the nation can come down because of that. It's a huge economic saving by just preventing high blood pressure. So with this, I conclude my words. My request to everybody, stay safe, because these are bad days, but at the same time, if we stay safe and healthy, use social distancing, masks, etc., can remain healthy and come out of this COVID pandemic and look at our other health problems more seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Dr. Venkatesh. That was really, really an eye-opener, I'm sure, for all those who are listening to you. I already have a barrage of questions for you, and I'll keep it for the end because, like I said, this is very exciting for people. And the ones with low blood pressure are sending me messages saying, yay, we are not suffering. So, you know, everything is all right. So I will come back with the questions later. To move on very quickly in the interest of time, the next panelist is equally distinguished, and he's an alumnus, who did his post-graduation from Belgaum. He's been working in Yenapoya Medical College for many, many years. He and his spouse, they work in the same institution. A gentleman with a keen sense of humor, a wonderful human being. He always believes in the fact that death and taxes are inevitable. And there are some choices we can make when it comes to cholesterol. I believe that he also thinks that cholesterol, maybe a small ounce of prevention is 10 times better than a pound of cure. So for a gentleman who also believes in prevention, to somebody who's a friend in the making, someone who's lighthearted, jovial, and I'm sure that he cares about patients, because when I asked him, what else do you do? He said, I only work, and work. So I believe we have another workaholic who's going to give serious competition to Dr. Sri Kumar. With a big smile, let us now welcome Dr. Ravi Vaswani. Dr. Ravi, it's all yours. Yes.
Thank you, Ushi. So if you think of all that has happened between Shalini and Venkatesh till now is like a river, if you think of our life as a flowing river, then cholesterol is upstream of what Shalini and Venkatesh spoke. So it all starts with, of course, before that, there's still a lot of genetic stuff, but basically the expression happens in terms of increased cholesterol, and that gives rise to all the problems that Shalini and Venkatesh spoke of. So I'm going to be talking for the next 12 minutes or so on cholesterol and how good or how bad it is. So like everything in this world, it's good when it's taken in just the right amount. Too much of anything is too bad, and too much of cholesterol also is too bad. So cholesterol is a generic name for a group of fatty substances that run in the bloodstream, and mostly they're bound to proteins. Where does this cholesterol come from? Most of the cholesterol is prepared in the liver, some from other organs, like the blood vessels, the adrenal glands, stuff like that, and the rest comes from our diet. So if you look at a typical white Caucasian American male, 68 kgs, 6 foot height, approximately 1,000 milligram of cholesterol is produced every day by the body. Our body has a total of around 35 grams or 35,000 milligrams of cholesterol. A typical American consumes around 300 milligrams of cholesterol each day in his diet. So when we eat foods which contain fats which are rich in fats, they break down inside the intestine, and then they're picked up across on the other side by proteins. So they're transported from the intestine to the liver, and from there, after processing via the bloodstream to various parts of the body which require the fats. Fats are good for quick calorie fixes. For the transport of these fats, there exists a family of proteins. They're the apolipoprotein group. So when the proteins bind to the fats, they form a structure called lipoproteins. And this is what we are generally talking about when we say the words LDL, HDL. We're talking about these lipoproteins. So there are 5 groups of this combination of fat and protein called lipoprotein. It starts basically depending upon the density, if it's light or heavy. So there's the ultra light density lipoproteins, which are called chylomicrons. Then there's a very low density lipoproteins. Then there's intermediate density lipoproteins. Then there's a low density lipoprotein, which is the main villain here. And then there's the high density lipoprotein, which is the good cholesterol. Chylomicrons carry fat from the intestines to the muscles. So the smallest group in this family of 5 are the chylomicrons, or the ultra low density lipoproteins. They carry fat from the intestines to the muscles and to other tissues in need of immediate calories. The low density lipoproteins carry fat from the liver to the cells. The low density lipoproteins are often broken down in the arteries to form intermediate density lipoproteins. High density lipoproteins clears the unbound fat which is circulating in the blood, therefore reducing the level of cholesterol in the body, and brings it back to the liver for further metabolism. If you look at the fats, so this was all about the lipoproteins. If you look at the fats, the most common fat is the triglyceride, and then there are other esters of fats, but the most common is the triglycerides. And you must have heard of triglycerides because Baba Google and Swami WhatsApp are the most famous gurus in the modern era, and a lot of stuff would be available for us to see on the net to find out about what these things are. So cholesterol is a very essential and necessary item for normal life. Every cell has a cell wall, and every cell wall has an inner cell membrane, and cholesterol is an integral part of the cell membrane. So every cell in the body needs cholesterol in some form or the other. Above this, we also need cholesterol to form steroid hormones, to form bile salts, and of course the most important and much spoken about, vitamin D. So our body utilizes whatever cholesterol we need, and the rest of it gets stored in the form of fat in the cells. So the number of fat cells and the amount of circulating cholesterol is a function of our gene expression, the amount of fat our body needs, the amount of fat in our diet, and the amount of fat we burn away in the form of calories. So it's a balance of these 4 factors. It's the genes that produce these carrier proteins and the enzymes that help in the metabolism of cholesterol. So basically, a lot of problems happen with our genes as we grow old, and the gene expression gets weaker as we grow older, so that our cholesterol increases as we age. This is a natural phenomenon. And we can't really stop this, but we can slow it down. So cholesterol in large quantities produces a condition called atherosclerosis. We'll talk about it a little later. In general, women have lower risk of atherosclerosis than men, but only up until the point when they are protected by menstrual cycles. Once they cross menopause, they're actually at greater risk. So it's not true to say that women are at less risk generally, but overall we can see that women are as much as at risk as men are. And all these risks are up to the age of 65 or so, and beyond this age we really don't have much data for risk analysis, and therefore we should be careful about talking about cholesterol and risk factors beyond the age of 65. So in the very elderly people, we can take it a little light in terms of control of cholesterol. Recent studies have suggested that low cholesterol in people older than 80 years actually predisposes to cancer and respiratory diseases. So this is known as the risk factor paradox. So the benefits of taking statins in the 80 plus age group is also much less, with much more risk. So when we talk cholesterol, we're talking about controlling cholesterol in not the very young and not the very old, and somewhere in the middle, which actually is good news rather than simply giving anti-cholesterol medicines to everybody. So what's atherosclerosis? Atherosclerosis is the thing that the process that causes all the problems which Shalini spoke of. So it starts off with a lot of fat roaming around in the blood, more fat than we need. This fat gets into cells called macrophages, and then gets converted into what we call as foam cells. The foam cells get deposited onto the inside of the lining of the arteries and starts off with fatty streaks. So fats get deposited on the inner lining of the arteries, and slowly this progresses into what we call as fibrofatty plaques, and then eventually leads on to atherosclerosis. When does it start? It starts around the age of 20. It's that earlier, that maybe even earlier. So there have been autopsies done on young people who died of car accidents and such things. When they cut open the aorta, they find fatty streaks inside the aorta. So we know that it probably starts even before 20, maybe in the teens. So as Benjamin Franklin said, and I'm modifying his quotation, is atherosclerosis, taxes, and death are inevitable. Okay, so we can't avoid it, but maybe you could slow it down. So the fat deposits on the insides of all the arteries and slowly hardens the arteries and blocks the flow. Eventually the artery gets blocked. Now where the artery gets blocked is going to decide what problem the patient is going to have. If the block occurs in the heart, it causes heart attacks, as Shalini spoke. If it blocks in the brain, it causes strokes. If it blocks in the kidney, it can cause kidney failure. In the legs, it causes what we call peripheral artery disease. So it can basically produce a lot of diseases all over the body. Like Venkatesh said about the silent killer, about hypertension, high cholesterol also has no symptoms, and therefore it is the PARP of hypertension in terms of silent killer. And it has no symptoms until atherosclerosis strikes, and by which time it probably might be too late. But it's not all negative and bad. There's always a silver lining behind every cloud. The recommendations for testing in the US are that it be done at 35 and above for males and 45 and above for females, and should be done once every 5 years as long as the reports are normal. The total cholesterol cutoff value in the US is kept at 200, and all over the world it's followed in the same way. For the LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, it's 100 and lower as ideal, and maybe up to 130 is okay, but not more than 130. The HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol, should be at least 60 or more, but definitely not lesser than 40. And the triglycerides should be 150 or lesser, and that's best, but definitely can be around about 200 or so. Now, these are data that are actually debatable and questionable. We all follow them, but we tend to look at numbers as gods. And that's the unfortunate problem with the modern science. From the time of Aristotle and René Descartes, we've taken a lot of assumptions. One of the common assumptions is that all human beings behave in the same way, respond to medicines in the same way, respond to illnesses in the same way. Now, this is a major assumption that makes us think of all people across the board being painted with the same brush. It's obvious that it can be different for different people, And it's very difficult to say that right now. There was a study back in the 70s in Australia which said, the first time the study came out, that cholesterol higher than 300 is not good. It's associated with morbidities. And now we brought that number down to 200. So we're getting more and more aggressive in terms of our control. And I'm not, for one, very sure about how aggressive we should be. At a personal level, I won't mind sharing with you that I'm rather conservative when it comes to treating my patients. And I don't mind the cholesterol levels at 250 or so. So it's, as long as they're active, exercising, etc., etc., we'll talk about that as we get there. So my advice to you would be, you're below 45, you're not overweight, you exercise a lot, you don't smoke, you don't drink a lot of alcohol, you don't have a stressful job, and you don't have a stressful family life, then don't worry about cholesterol, don't even go to test it. Because don't trouble unless trouble troubles you. But you know that as you grow older, with every day that passes by, your cholesterol levels are bound to increase. So what can you do? What should you do? Right from a very early age, which of course, maybe many of us have already gone past that, but it's never too late to start. You could watch your diet. And if you're thin, don't become fat. And if you're already overweight, try to lose that extra fat. How do you do that? Eat less, eat more fiber-containing foods, avoid high cholesterol diets. We all know what high cholesterol diets are, so I won't go there. And we're getting a nutritionist coming on later on. Exercise a lot, not simply going for an evening walk or a stroll in the park, but a walk that makes you sweat. 9 minutes per kilometer, maybe 3 kilometers a day is a good idea. Maybe more if you can do that. Cardio, if you want to cardio, but I prefer walking out in nature. Early morning, you can hear the birds, you can see the sun rising, you get dawn. You get a lot of other side benefits that happen along with it, and it doesn't cost you anything. Walking is the cheapest exercise on this earth. If you're taking tobacco, stop all forms of tobacco. If you're drinking, reduce your consumption of alcohol. And if you're not drinking, please don't start. So even though it's supposed to be good in small quantities, you don't have to start just because it's good. Don't take stress. As Venkatesh said, take a hobby, just don't take stress. Enjoy your life. If your cholesterol is really high, meet a physician. You'll probably receive a drug therapy. Though I personally convince my patients not to be in a hurry to start. I say, try 4 weeks of lifestyle changes. Come back to me, we'll repeat the tests again. And if you aren't seeing a dropping trend, then we'll probably start medicines. That way I get commitment from the patient to know whether he's really interested in, because it's not just medicine that's going to make him all right. He needs to have a change in lifestyle also. And it's going to be 60% patient effort and 40% doctor effort. And we hope it remains that way. And we should also make it 80% patient effort and 20% doctor effort. Yeah. So I dream of a world where doctors don't see patients at all, but that's never going to happen. Thanks to the way we live our lives, our modern lives. Okay, so if I start a medicine, the most preferred drug we start is a statin, unless they have only triglyceride levels high, in which case we start fibrates. But most of us have LDLs and triglycerides being high, which means statins. You've probably heard of statins a lot. Before we take statins, we need to understand that all medicines in modern medicine have side effects. There's no medicine that does not have side effects. There's not a single medicine that does not have side effects. So yes, it's good to know the side effects before we, get down to really taking it. So what does statin do? Statin inhibits the synthesis of cholesterol in the liver and in other places where it's produced, and thereby it reduces the formation of LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol. And when we exercise, we increase the production of HDL cholesterol, which is the good cholesterol. What's the dose of statins? Now, most physicians who are aggressive, the modern physicians, start with 40, go to 80. Oldies like me start with 10, progress to 20, and very rarely get to 40. I find my patients do quite well on that. I don't know, it's maybe anecdotal, maybe I'm biased. Don't believe me, go to your physician. That's the best. If you trust your physician, it's very important to trust your physician and believe in what he says and take it in good faith, all the medicines.
Dr. Ravi, you have 1 minute.
Yes. Okay, so what precautions? Done. What precautions do we need to take while taking statins? Your doctor will tell you about the blood tests you need. And if you're pregnant, or if you have breastfeeding, don't do that. There are side effects. There's muscle pain, there's liver failure, there's pancreatitis, there's loss of libido, a lot of other stuff that can happen. So it's good to keep your cholesterol under control, but the best way to do it is with natural diet and not medicine. So my take-home message for you are 3. Don't expect you can stop aging. You can only slow it down. Don't wait. Start now. All right. And numbers are not our masters. So do checking changing and controlling of cholesterol. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all those facts, which I'm sure has added tremendous value to all the listeners. And let me just state what I understood from the whole conversation, that you need to get less fat, you need to get more fit, and obviously I added the word don't fag. So I think these three will really sum up, the fat, fit, and fag bit. And of course, you end up being fabulous. Lesser the doctors that we need to see, the fitter that you feel, and obviously the most fabulous thing that anyone can feel is also happiness. So thank you very much for being with us. Don't go anywhere, because the questions are just building up for you as well. So I just keep taking in the questions in my inbox. So please,
I would also
all
add
of
to
you,
your F's. I could add to your F's by saying be funny
yeah,
and don't fuel alcohol.
yes, please. So don't fuel alcohol and be funny. So please listen to the doctors over here, ladies and gentlemen, and all the fellow doctors who are listening to us. Very quickly, let me move on to the next young lady. Now, we heard all the doctors. Now we have a nutritionist coming along. There's a big myth which is associated with hundreds of diets which are fads. Somebody asks you to eat fat. Somebody asks you not to eat fat. Somebody says refined oil is good. Somebody says refined oil is not at all good. Somebody says have tons of butter. Somebody says don't have any butter. Now, actually, it's a very confusing world out there. So I have traced out this young lady who's been doing a lot of good work from what I have followed up. She's a certified diabetes educator. She's a pediatric nutritionist, and she counsels a lot of children. She's been a practicing nutritionist. She runs something called nutritiontatwa.com. Ladies and gentlemen, with great pleasure, let me welcome, I think, one of the youngest ladies on this panel, my very own dear Ranjini Raman. She's going to tell us about some strategies which are good for the heart. Listen carefully, because this is doable. Over to you, Ranjini.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ushi. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you. Yeah,
great. Thank you so much for bringing me here on this panel, and it's an absolute honor to be here. I think the experts have spoken very widely about all of the main subject matter, which is, with regards to the medical conditions. I think from Dr. Srikumar to Dr. Ravi, I think all of them have given such wonderful insights. And if we have noticed, I think all four of them touched upon diet being one of the most important areas that needs to be worked upon. So I think that is the reason, today we want to, bring in certain strategies that we all can follow to enhance our heart health, right? So I am of an opinion that no quick solutions or no fads or no short-term solutions, all of this do not work. So I feel that it's about following certain strategies in the long term, making corrections for life, and bringing in modifications, smart modifications, so that you're able to see the results for long term. So that is what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to probably share about 4 to 5 strategies that we could follow and keep our heart healthy. Okay, so the first point that I want to talk about is about the portion control, because this is one biggest area that at least Indians have a trouble, right? We all eat healthy, and I think we all are eating the same foods. We were never putting on so much weight when we were kids, but eating the same food as we are growing up is becoming more and more troublesome. And I think that just means that just by cutting down on portions, we can definitely see a great improvement. Unfortunately, this is a big challenge for us. People are ready to move to a sophisticated, program, and people are ready to just cut off their rotis and eat maybe just vegetables. They're ready to do everything, but it's so difficult to just, trim down the portion sizes. So I think that is one of the biggest area that needs to be worked on, because weight gain or being overweight or obesity is a major cause. Like if we see in terms of all medical conditions, I think weight related issue, because of the weight is what the outcome is, right? So even if you go to an ortho or you go to a gastro, a GI, or even a gynec, anybody for that matter would first tell, losing the weight is what will help you in terms of bringing some control. So I think the first step in terms of weight management or even to promote good health is to slightly cut down the portions as we are growing older. But portion control becomes so difficult simply because we have trained our stomach and the tongue so much. So how do we do this? See, number one is understanding that by incorporating more fibrous foods or more fruits and vegetables, our portions can drop down in terms of the carbohydrate intake. Our focus on macronutrients, which is the carbohydrate, protein, and fat, has to definitely, we have to pay attention to this. And like Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, definitely carbohydrates is a major cause for a lot of lifestyle disorders. If we can cut down the intake of carbohydrates, and if we can probably make wise shifts, like moving to a brown rice or red rice, or maybe moving to a broken wheat, or millets are coming up, and red poha instead of the refined poha, basically moving out all refined foods and shifting to a whole grains and whole cereals can definitely do a good job. Because the problem is, with white rice we cannot control our portions, but when we eat red rice or brown rice, I think we cannot eat too much. So that's also a mental trick. So little by little, when we start making these smart shifts, we will be able to cut down the portion sizes. So that is very important for us. And the second thing is, by engaging in a very mindful eating habit. This is again one of my favorite topics that I talk to a lot of people about. A lot of us are in a hurry, are in a rush. We just gobble food. We don't even give time to eat mindfully. When we eat mindfully, we will actually be able to cut down on our portions. We must have seen a lot of people who eat fast and they eat a lot. So when you practice eating slower, mindfully, by engaging in the food and keeping all distractions away, and really enjoying by involving all the senses, the amount of contentment is much more higher with just about smaller portions. Really give it a try. I insist this on a lot of my clients, and I think it really works wonder, because it kind of gives them the connection between the mind and the food, and it helps them to eat lesser. So if you're not focusing on the food, you can just keep putting in a lot of food and you won't even realize you've eaten. So I think cutting down on portions plays a huge role. One of the another trick probably would be in terms of adding smaller cutlery, smaller plates, smaller bowls, because it's just again a psychology, right? When we serve ourselves in a huge plate, we tend to eat more because we may feel the food is lesser. So slowly shifting to smaller plates, smaller bowls, and serving in, and eating by, eating slower with smaller portions, I think that's also going to help a lot. So in terms of portion control, always remember we want to cut down on the carbohydrates, like I mentioned, and the calorie curve, which means the calories coming from this carbohydrates should be distributed through the day, and it should actually taper down by the end of the day, which means we need to have a good breakfast, a decent enough lunch, and by night we really do not want to load up on heavy dinner. And I think this is the most important issue we are seeing nowadays, because a lot of people do not eat a good breakfast, they do not eat a good lunch, but then they think, they say that, end of the day is what the entire family gets together. So we end up eating a good heavy dinner. But this is again one of the major causes a lot of medical conditions, including weight gain and cardiovascular diseases. So I think that the calorie curve should actually taper down as the day goes by. So we need to ensure that there is a good breakfast, decent lunch, and definitely a lighter dinner. And we should always make sure our plate is distributed, with about 1/4 of carbohydrate, which is about maybe one or two chapatis. So it all depends on how much you've been eating. So for someone who has eaten about, say, 8 to 9 chapatis on a regular basis, we cannot cut down to 1 chapati at once. It's going to be very difficult. So we need to make the adjustments based on the current intake of a person. But otherwise, I think eating about 2 chapatis and maybe a little bit of, definitely 1/4 should be a protein source. It can be from dals, or it can be from pulses, it can be eggs, it can be any kind of protein source. And the half of the plate, which is like the entire half of the plate should be filled with vegetables. So when you start moving towards a vegetable-based diet, I think that's much more beneficial in terms of providing the protective nutrients. So that's the first strategy, which is cutting down on the macros, trying to give a balance. Make sure your plate contains of 1/4 of carbs, 1/4 of protein, and 1/2 of it is vegetables. And then you're also trying to eat mindfully. So that's the first strategy. Now, the second strategy is by including a lot of fruits and vegetables. I have had clients who tell they do not eat fruits. They probably eat fruits about once in 2 weeks, or they don't buy fruits. They say they are so bored to eat fruits. Sometimes they give reasons such as they can't chew pomegranates. They say we cannot cut fruits. The only simplest fruit is, of course, banana. So the very few, there is no diversity in fruit intake, and also with vegetable intake. I think one of the most important ways you can protect our heart is by ensuring there is a lot of these antioxidants present in fruits and vegetables. By incorporating more and more of colorful fruits and vegetables, we can just protect our hearts. And moreover, it is very rich in fiber. And we also know they're very low on calories. They do not contain cholesterol. And it's one of the most protective foods one can have. So if you have any kind of heart condition, it's very important that you're incorporating at least about 1 to 2 servings of fruits. Try to incorporate one fruit from a citrus category. It can be orange, amla, it can be kiwi, it can be mosambi, any of these. And another fruit which is more of probably the seasonal fruit, and it can be papayas, watermelon, or whatever it is in season. Try to buy from buy seasonal fruits, and try to stick to about 100 to 120 grams, because fruits being sugar also may have issues if you consume too much. But the most safest bet is with vegetables. So even with vegetables, we encourage a lot of diversification, because again, we have seen families which just stick to about 2 to 3 vegetables every time. They just pick the same vegetables every week in their grocery, and then there is no diversification. So I would definitely recommend diversifying your vegetable intake. Make sure that you're exploring different vegetables. Make sure there's a lot of colorful vegetables, include tomatoes, include a lot of bell peppers, colors, bring in natural colors, so that you're getting that antioxidant dose. The moment we have more antioxidants, it's about protective. We all know these antioxidants are nothing but it protects our body. So protects our body cells. So definitely including fruits and vegetables is the next strategy that I want to talk about. And moving to the third strategy, which is about the fat. So I think this is one of the most confused area also, like how Dr. Ushi was saying, we don't know which is good, which is bad. So I think that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Fat, we all know, is there are good fats and bad fats. So the good fats are nothing but the ones that is present in nuts, seeds, healthy oils, which is cold pressed or filtered. We definitely need some amount of fat in our intake. I know a lot of people, again, who just avoid all kinds of fat because they think it is bad for them, but it is not true. So we need to start incorporating a lot of healthy fat, because we need fat for a lot of vitamins, such as fat soluble vitamins to be working. We need for synthesis of vitamin D. We need for a lot of other activities. So we cannot rule out healthy fat. So just by incorporating some amount of seeds, I think nowadays we're getting very there are very easily, these are available for us, right? Pumpkin seeds, watermelon seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, all of these are very easily available nowadays. And I think we all should try to incorporate these regularly in our intake in smaller quantities, because nuts and seeds can be very high on calories, because fat as such contributes to about 9 calories per gram. So if you're overdoing on fat, you may actually increase your calorie for the day. It's absolutely fine as long as you balance it or you maintain it with the other intake, right? If you eat this also and eat something else, definitely you're going to load up on the calorie for that particular day, and it may result in weight gain. But otherwise, definitely incorporating nuts and seeds are a very good idea. Incorporating healthy oils, switching from refined oils to cold pressed or filtered oils these days. So again, this is also easily available. A lot of people are exploring this business, and there are a lot of people who are coming up with healthy oils nowadays. So I think shifting from a refined oil to a healthier oil will be a better option. Try to replace, keep changing oils every time you use. Maybe this month you use 1 or 2, you can use sesame oil or mustard oil, and then the next month you can use something else, because we can get the benefit from all the oils. So definitely oils play a huge role. Try and avoid refined oils, because I think that is definitely not healthy. They definitely have some chemicals in them, so we really do not recommend refined oils. Ghee can be utilized in moderate quantity. There is absolutely no issues. Ghee is also very good in terms of helping in other nutrient absorption and even slowing down glucose. So I think ghee also can be used in a lot of Ayurvedic treatments. I think ghee plays a huge role, but I think it's about moderation. It's ensuring that we have just about a little bit of pure ghee. If it is from grass-fed cows, it's even more better for us. So that's about the fat. So we should avoid all the trans fats, which I'm going to talk about again. all kinds of unhealthy fat is available in the form of trans fats or high cholesterol saturated fats in most of the junk foods. So just by cutting off that itself, we may be able to cut off a lot of these unhealthy fat. Now, when we load up on this fat is when, our LDL levels increase, just like how Dr. Ravi was mentioning. LDL is the enemy and LDL is what we want to bring down. So I think just by reducing a lot of these junk foods, fried foods, deep fried, all of will do a great deed in terms of bringing your LDL levels in control. And the fourth strategy that I want to talk about is about hydration. I think one of the most simplest strategy, but seldom followed. Again, I've had people who say, I drink about 2 glasses of water in a day. I don't drink water. I don't like to drink water. A lot of people giving excuses in terms of drinking water, but I think this is one of the most easiest and simplest ways to cleanse ourselves, to keep our blood circulation better, and to make sure that we are well hydrated. We all know that water plays a major role in terms of our in the circulatory system, and at least about 2 to 3 liters of water per day for a healthy adult is recommended. Do not overdo as well, because again, that's another thing which we've seen. People overdo sometimes by drinking about 6 to 7 liters of water, and then they dilute their body electrolytes, they flush out. So that can also result in a lot of issues. I'm sure the experts over here can, give more, throw some more light on this. But definitely just about 2 to 3 liters of water can be a good intake if you're a healthy adult without any medical conditions. If you're bored to drink just about plain water, you can definitely incorporate maybe tender coconut water. There can be buttermilk, like how Dr. Shalini was mentioning. Buttermilk can be a good option. You could incorporate herbal teas. You can do infused waters just to add some flavor, natural flavor. So all of this can be additional ways how you can incorporate. But please, please do not ignore this fact, because even if you follow all of the other strategies, if you're not drinking enough water, I don't think, our body is going to perform, right? And the fifth strategy that I want to talk about is about eating clean. So now, while you're following all of these other strategies, it is very important that we are trying to eat clean by avoiding a lot of junk foods. So when I say eat clean, it is nothing but ensuring that we are eating real foods. We are eating foods that is natural. We are eating foods that is not commercially processed. So the moment we cut off a lot of processed or packaged foods, we will see that a lot of health issues are sorted out. The number one factor is the endocrine disrupting factors. A lot of women and children today are having a lot of hormonal issues, hormonal imbalances because of these kind of endocrine disrupting factors, which is because of the chemicals, preservatives, and additives. When we stop this, automatically it creates a good, it just enhances our health. The second thing is most of these processed foods, the packaged foods, are packed with sodium. And this can be, we may not notice this, especially if you have a heart issue or if there is anything related to cardiovascular issues. The sodium plays a huge role. We all know we need to bring it down. We need to cut down on the salt. Now, most of these processed foods, if you learn to look at the food labels, you will see that they contain sodium. And luckily nowadays, FSSAI is insisting that they have to mention the sodium content in foods. And that's definitely helping consumers to make informed choices by reading these labels. So definitely we have to see to it that there is no sodium. And the trick with processed foods is that the sodium does not necessarily have to taste salty. So you may have sweeter foods, you may have regular bland foods, but still loaded up on sodium. So definitely make sure that you're looking at labels and avoiding. So just by leaving all these junk and processed foods, automatically you cut down on the sodium intake. So that is also another important reason why we must eat clean and focus on eating just healthy foods. If you're hungry, it's all right to just munch a fruit or grab a fruit and eat, or maybe have some nuts. That's the first shift, by just avoiding a lot of processed foods and just shifting to a real foods, healthy foods, which is going to add some value to our body. So that is important. And of course, cholesterol. So even cholesterol is loaded. You can look at the labels again. People have started to mention what is the cholesterol levels. So learn to read labels. You will also probably read about trans fat. So any food which contains most of the packaged foods, you will see that there is.
Ranjani, there's just 30 seconds, please. Just 30 seconds now. Yeah.
Sure. So just look for the trans fat, because even if it is less than 0.5 grams per 100 grams, they can declare it as zero. So please avoid any foods which is packaged and processed. So I think with this, I end my session. I think these are the 5 strategies that you can follow. And I think we all should have a better heart.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. It's been wonderful knowing a lot more. In fact, some questions have already started coming up for you, which we'll quickly handle after we have the next speaker. The next speaker is a very, very dear friend's friend. And I have rarely met gentlemen who are so calm, composed, quiet, and, you know, also very unassuming. He's had his naturopathy degree from SDM College of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences. He's also done his program in medical legal systems from Symbiosis in Pune. The next speaker that's coming up, when I asked him, what do you do in your spare time? He says, I enjoy nourishing and cultivating a herbal garden. He loves plant cultivation. He loves cooking different therapeutic recipes, mind you. And at the end of the day, he loves playing badminton, volleyball, and table tennis. A man of diverse interests, the medical superintendent of Roots Hospital, which is based in Coimbatore, to a man who's unassuming, but at the same time been doing wonderful, marvelous jobs. Please, let's welcome Dr. Saranyan. Dr. Saranyan, the screen is all yours, please. And he's going to be telling us how naturally you can get rid of maybe the bypass, maybe. So I think you should listen carefully and understand his viewpoint. Over to you, Dr. Saranyan.
A very good evening and namaste to everybody. And thank you, Dr. Oshi, for introducing me to such an august panel of speakers and wonderful doctors. In fact, I am actually feeling very, very happy to have listened to all the previous speakers, because it very rarely happens that everybody is on the same page. And right from the beginning till now, it's been going wonderful. And we are all speaking about the same concepts and the same insistence and emphasis for people to get well, as well as a lot of emphasis on preventing what can actually terribly go wrong. So I come from a system of medical practice which believes more in terms of addressing the body holistically or in total. So I would actually request everybody to just imagine that the body is not just like systems like, the respiratory system, cardiology, hematology, vascular system, endocrinology. Instead of that, just for some time, try to assume that you are a unit of 50 trillion functional cells. So all these cells vibrate together and then they perform a function. So it's basically like how happy we are able to allow these cells to vibrate. We enjoy that benefit. So that is what exactly is what we're going to talk about now. So the cell has 2 predominant functions. One is to grow, other one is to defend. But then with our environmental, the way we are exposed ourselves to the environment, or the way we try to adapt, or in a pseudo adaptation pattern, we are predominantly in a phase where we are always in the protective mode. So there is stress is actually, it's wonderful. We have 2 components of stress, eustress and distress. The positive part is eustress and then the negative part is distress. So the distress actually, when it predominates, we always are in the protective mode, or in what we call as the defense mode, that increases all the inflammatory markers in the body. So the inflammation in the cellular level starts creating a pattern where the cells are irritated. And when the cells are irritated by genetic predisposition, as well as in terms of repetitive injury or repetitive irritation, which are very vulnerable, yield in, and then we start facing a lot of problems. Now, having listened to all the experts, I don't want again go into the technicalities of what happens and symptoms and all these things. I would directly share with you, like I have some very specific points to share with all of you, which you can start inculcating in the natural lifestyle, because I'm here to speak about natural lifestyle through naturopathy and yoga, which takes care of the mind component as well as the body. So it becomes more holistic. So I'm going to talk about breathing technique, which is going to be very specific, and then posture, which can be practiced, then about the sleep pattern, and then about some very simple to do yoga mudras, which can definitely help, sunbathing, and then some superfoods for the heart, which already dietitian Rajini has covered, but then I'll be adding in some aspects of that, and then some very easy, simple herbs, which people can follow easily to protect their heart. And in the end, about how do we practice or how do we handle patients in our hospital, that I would try to manage within this time frame. Now, coming very specifically to all the plugins for the natural lifestyle, one is the breathing technique, which is very essential, very effective, and it is definitely going to work. So the time-tested and scientifically proven and acclaimed breathing technique is what we call commonly as an alternative nostril breathing, called as Nadi Shuddhi. So we inhale from the left nostril, exhale from the right nostril, and again inhale from the right nostril and exhale from the right nostril. This completes one cycle of breathing. And this is not difficult. It can be practiced by everybody. As a very classical yoga person, people will ask to sit in Padmasana or Vajrasana and practice. But it need not be the case always. If you have issues with your back or the knee, you can always sit in a chair and do. But the only essential criteria is try to keep your spine as erect as possible. Try to keep your eyes closed. Try to start getting more aware about your breathing pattern. So it is like inhale from the left, exhale from the right, and then again inhale from the right and exhale from the left. That completes one cycle. And we usually start training people by advising to do 12 cycles of this breathing practice. When they are more comfortable, when they start learning about their breathing control and become aware of that, we ask them to improvise that to 24 cycles, and then maximum you can take up to 48 cycles, and it definitely does help. The second part is about the posture, a yoga posture, which need not be very typically like yoga, but we can modify it very comfortably. I can just show you a simple printout so that everybody is able to see clearly. This is what we call as a leg up the wall pose, classically called as Viparita Karani, but it is being modified so that everybody can practice very comfortably with both the legs up against the wall, hips pressing against the wall, and your body is flat. And it is always better you throw your hands above your head and then allow it to relax. And in this posture, try to breathe normally for a very long time. It is like it comes by practice. So if you start practicing, you can start with the 5 minutes of practice, then you can take it up to 20 minutes. If you're able to do this 20 minutes every day, it definitely does work. It also adds up to a lot of help in varicose veins and bringing down your anxiety, stress levels, headaches, but works very good in hypertension and enhancing the cardiac health. So that is kind of a modified practice of Viparita Karani. And then classically coming to yoga posture, because we talk about so much about yoga, but I would like to insist upon ourselves, like, try to practice the simple posture, which is absolutely easy, which is called as Shavasana. We always call it as the corpse posture. Shavasana, just lie down flat in the ground or in your cot with your arms and legs let loose completely. Don't try to control your body, just allow it to the gravity. And then try to bring in a lot of awareness in your breathing. Try to practice deep breathing, and then with awareness, it actually starts getting better and better. You want to allow your body to focus. Try to place your palms on your abdomen and then feel the breath, the abdomen going up and down, and then on the chest. So this actually helps. So, but this is basically to condition the mind, because we are always, data-driven people, information-driven people. Lot of information, lot of data, lot of schedule, lot of programs to be covered. That keeps running again and again and again in the mind, and then automatically it all creates a burden, stressing up on various inflammations happening in the heart. So the Shavasana posture is something which can be practiced. It's very simple. Try to practice that by synchronizing with your breathing. Initially, it may sound to be very weird and simple, but then when you practice and when you start feeling the results, you will start enjoying it. Now, when we start doing this Viparita Karani, the leg up against the wall posture and Shavasana regularly, there is one more major benefit we start actually realizing, that is improvised sleep rhythm, because sleep rhythm has got a very serious impact on the cardiac health. We have any number of scientific papers which are published and a lot of studies happening, which always tell that the poor quality of sleep is very detrimental for the heart. So what we usually advise is 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That is something which everybody knows, but I'm still emphasizing. But what I would like to emphasize is to develop a good sleep hygiene and a sleep rhythm. It's not like I am lying down in the cot and I get up in the morning and I walk. It's like getting into actual deep, good sleep. So what are the do's and don'ts for that? One is try to have early dinner, have a spacing of at least 3 hours from dinner to when you go to sleep. Second thing, post 1 hour after dinner, try to have a 15-20 minute stroll or walk. Avoid arguments before going to sleep or even after your dinner. Never watch TV debates when you are having food. That's absolutely going to spoil your digestion as well as your sleep. So anything which is going to be argumentative, avoid before going to sleep. And the most important thing which everybody abuse their body is at least 1 to 1.5 hours prior to your sleep, try to restrict your exposure to bright LED lights, kind of digital fasting. If you can try to bring that, your quality of sleep will start improving. You can start feeling that in a week's time. You will not need a very long time to do that. Then comes to practice of some ancient knowledge, which is also part of yoga, what we call as mudras. There are two mudras which are very, very scientific, at the same time very, very effective in terms of heart health. One is what is called as Apana Vayu Mudra. It is so simple. All that you need to do is you need to bend your forefinger and put it on the root of the thumb, and then bend your middle finger and the ring finger and touch the tip of your thumb. So it's like fold your ring finger, touch the base of the thumb, middle finger and ring finger touching against the thumb, and the little finger pointing outwards. So this is a simple mudra which you can always do. Only thing is never allow the bare foot to touch the ground when you're practicing mudra. It's as good as doing a yoga practice. So try to practice this for 20 to 30 minutes a day. This is one mudra which is very, very effective, brings down anxiety, palpitation, at the same time preventive, very effective in prevention in terms of heart problems. The other one is exactly mimicking the heart. It's like, you know, the fist. So it is called as Mudichi Mudra. Mudichi is basically a knot. So what happens is you keep your right arm, place your left thumb on the right palm, and then left on the right, and then place the right thumb on that, close it, and then fold it across. So it becomes like a knot. It is like a knot. Left on the right palm, then close it with your right thumb, close it this way, and then hold it across. This is called as Mudichi Mudra. When you look it around, it is just like a fist, just like your heart. So you can practice this mudra for 20 to 30 minutes. Both these are very powerful. It may sound to be very simple, but when you practice, you will find the results for sure. Absolutely, I don't have any doubt on that, because I've been handling n number of patients round the clock, years together in the hospital. Next is sunbathing. Sunbathing is something, you know, it's everybody knows about it and everybody is aware about it, but most of us, you know, conveniently somehow don't do that. But sunbathing does not mean that I am walking in the sun, I have to walk for 40 minutes to my office. That actually does not contribute to sunbathing. It is a dedicated 20 minutes exposure to sunlight, and it can be even more effective if you are able to expose your spine to the sun. Use your terrace. Try to have a small partition using your your clothes drying area. Just try to put 2 bedspreads. It will be definitely effective, because vitamin D has got a very, very, very positive effect on, you know, prevention of cardiac problems. So sun bath is something which is very, very effective. And for people who come from countries where sun is very scarce, then the technological advancement, which actually is equally good as sun bath, is taking a far infrared sauna bath twice or thrice in a week for 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes of far infrared sauna bath. That is very effective. Then coming to the diet part, which everybody has insisted. Now, but I would like to insist on, you know, because the dietitian Rajini has actually told in elaborate, I would just like to insist on something which we call as superfood for the heart. So when we talk about superfood for the heart, the insistence is on taking about rainbow colored fruits and vegetables too much in your diet. So something which is like very easy to follow is consuming a lot of oranges, flax seeds, sweet potato, pomegranate, guava fruit, green tea, garlic, using virgin coconut oil, avocados, and nuts in your diet. And why we are talking again and again about rainbow colored fruits, why there should be a lot of color in the fruit and vegetables, because every colored fruit has got its own, you know, nutrients. Like, you know, blue color has got anthocyanins, green has got indole, white has got allicin, yellow has got carotenoids, orange and red have got lycopenes, and like black tea has got theophylline, green tea has got catechins, tomatoes have a lot of lycopenes, and these are all going to add up biochemically working on your body, because all this talk has been about addressing something which we cannot so easily understand, that is reducing the oxidation of LDL and bringing down triglyceride levels, pumping in a lot of antioxidants, consuming blood thinners. All these things happens by consuming rainbow colored foods and adding a lot of vegetables and fruits to your diet. Now, that's about the diet part. Now, some 3 simple herbs which everybody can follow very easily for enhancing the cardiac function, at the same time having a protective or preventive aspect for the heart. One is what we commonly call as Vilvam in Tamil, otherwise it is called as Bale in North India. Botanically, it is called as Aigil marmelos, that's otherwise called as the Bilva Patra. So these leaves, Bilvapatra leaves or the fruit, can be consumed in the form of a juice. 30 ml of Bilvapatra juice is very, very effective. And another one is very unnoticed, but comes in form of various formulations. It's otherwise very popularly known in South called as Mukkirete Kirai. In North, it is called as Punarnava. And the botanical name for this is Bohevia diffusans, otherwise commonly known as hogweed. It's a very wild creeper. It just comes like a weed. It's not, you need not struggle to grow. You have a small pot and it just grows so comfortably. You can use this and make in the form of a soup. Daily, 1 glass of soup, it helps. It is also a natural diuretic agent. And then the most wonderful and exotic thing what people who have access to can also use is try to use the Indian white lotus petal for making herbal tea. So Bilvam, otherwise called as Belpatra, other one is the Bohevia diffusans, another one is Indian white lotus. These 3 herbs definitely have a wonderful effect on prevention as well as helping people having cardiac issues. And then the final aspect of what we do in our hospital. We are a nature hospital where our job is to talk about natural living, trying to give confidence, train, counsel, and then change people to convince and change people to change their lifestyle. So what I told, all these things we do for the patients, but more than that, what we do in the diet is we do what is called as therapeutic juice fasting. Therapeutic juice fasting, most of them, take them, they just go back and we tell the naturopathy hospital juice fasting, they won't give any food. But therapeutic juice fasting is scientific. And there are a lot of research papers, like, there's a Journal of Clinical Nutrition, which published a paper in 2004. And then again, American Journal of Cardiology published a paper in 2005, which tells, just as simple as having pomegranate juice regularly brings down the, inflammation in the carotid intimal linings in cardiovascular patients. At the same time, it also brings down the reduce of risk of having a myocardial infection in cardiac risk patients. So something very simple like an apple juice, pomegranate juice, guava, and try to do a therapeutic juice fasting. Of course, it is always advised to do under monitoring or have guidance from your physician, consult him and then go into fasting. We do it in the hospital and it definitely works because we get people, hardly 15 to 25% of people will come with cardiac problems and they are always above 60. They say that we have been advised for bypass, but we are not interested to go for bypass. We're not happy to go for it, or we are afraid of going for it. Rather, we would like to try this, even if there's some complication, we are ready to go for it. Then we try to put them and we devise it, but we don't have a common protocol. We assess and do person specific. So we do this and then we inculcate a lot of nuts, at the same time boiled vegetables, steamed vegetables, raw salads and fruits. So that covers a lot of fruits and vegetables in the diet. So therapeutic fasting for 5 to 7 days followed by 3 weeks of a diet protocol which has nuts, raw salads, at the same time a lot of boiled and steamed vegetables with very little amount of heavy food. So when we do this, we have seen very good promising results which happens almost straight away 30 to 40% change and reduction in the problem what they have. It brings down the inflammation in the arterial linings and they are able to feel the change which happens in a month's time. If people who suffer can do this and then enjoy the benefit in a month's time, if you are able to follow this as plugins in our daily lifestyle and then bring it in a consistent practice, then I'm sure people definitely can come out of the risk of getting into something which is going to be very disastrous, and for everybody, everyone in the family is so near and dear. And then it's not worth always taking a costly risk on something which can be easily preventable. But then the underline, and this is not going to happen overnight. It's not like you just take this in 5 days it will happen. It's not going to happen. That is why we call it as natural lifestyle. It is something which has to be imbibed gradually. And every time you try to, I have told about 9 things, you can try to start doing 2 things and then consolidate, then add 2 more things, consolidate. So take your time, don't do it in a hurry. And you can always take the help of your guidance, but never do any of these things just like that. Always keep your physician and cardiologist informed that you are doing these kind of lifestyle modifications. That is always a good thing to keep them informed. What kind of lifestyle modifications, what kind of yoga, what kind of dietary modifications you are doing, so that everybody's on the same page. They can help you, guide you promptly, and then you're sure that you're going to face the benefit out of it. So having told all these things, So I would like to always conclude by telling that it is something like, instead of compartmentalizing our diet as well as our approach to health as cardiology and neurology and psychology, and diet as like, protein dependent, fat dependent, carb dependent, let us try to bring it into something what is called as holistic approach, where it is more of a balanced thing. So everybody spoke about that, and I am also insisting upon a balanced diet as well as what we call it as holistic spiritualism. Holistic spiritualism is nothing but, that going to have a problem in the life is absolutely normal. You will either have a knee problem or a heart problem or sleep disorder or acidity. That is going to be there. So going to have illness is not something which everybody can luckily avoid. But then, how successful are we in understanding that and trying to build a lot of wellness in illness and enjoy the life and bring about a good change in quality of life what we do. So it is basically to embrace and enjoy life in the healthiest possible way without putting too much of strain and simplifying it. So I hope I have simplified things and given you something which can be done very easily, and this does not cost you much. You don't need any equipments, and you don't need somebody to stand behind you and monitor. It is your conscience which you'll be doing for yourself, and you are going to, the person is going to enjoy that. So wishing everybody the best of health, and stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. Enjoy life. Thank you very much for your patience.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Saranyan. That was awesome. And by the way, Dr. Saranyan, you and me have been invited to Dubai to talk at the Ayush convention by somebody on YouTube. So, people are watching us, and all the panelists, I'm glad to tell you that the Ayush guys are inviting all of you for the Dubai Expo in 2020. They want all of us to talk there. So I guess this is the upside of, going online and talking to people across the globe. Thank you very much. Now for the summation, we've had a wonderful panel of speakers, and we're going to throw it open for questions once Dr. Jowli summates. Is Dr. Jowli here? Can I hear a yes?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. So yes, so this doctor is a friend of mine, and I take great pride in introducing him to you. Now he's one of the most reputed guy, not just in India but across the globe. He's the chief cardiothoracic and vascular surgeon. He's the chairman of Fortis Hospitals. He's on many national and international panels. He's always been the first to have done what he did. He's not only a pioneer, but he keeps innovating and re-innovating. A man who loves fine arts, poetry, ghazals, and sher shairi. I've rarely met a combination of people who are so dexterous, not just surgically, but as well as philosophically and spiritually. With a keen sense of humor, subtle wit, scientific skills, and obviously a man who's very compassionate. He agreed the moment I requested him. He doesn't have to be here. He's a very busy man. He's highly placed, and he keeps doing wonderful work. This is the last place probably he needs to be in, but you know what he said? I would love to come and sum up everything so long as there are people out there. So without wasting any time, I'd request Dr. Vivek Javli to come on and please summate this whole discussion that we've been having about heart health. He's held thousands of hearts in his hand. He's repaired thousands of hearts. He's also aided a lot of people. Some of your patients are texting me, Dr. Javli, saying that they've come in after many years to say thanks to you and just listen to you. Without further ado, please let's all listen to Dr. Vivek Javli. Over to you. Yes.
Thank you, Ushi. I will sum up in short and also add a little bit that was not spoken. So you realized that what the first speaker told you, that today more than 18 million people annually die of heart disease across the globe. 1 million is 10 lakh, 1.8 crores. That is more than cancer, more than trauma. This is a serious problem and is a real problem. Is it preventable? Yes, yes, yes. 80% of it is preventable by simple lifestyle tips and tricks, which you heard just now. If you look at the globe, the Western world realized this, started disciplining themselves. And if you have a bird's eye view, the countries like Finland, Japan have got minus 40% degrowth of this problem. If you look at United States, Canada, and some other countries like that, it's about minus 20% or 25%. Look at India, Pakistan, Ceylon, Nepal, the South Asia, it is plus 100%. The problem is real. How can you prevent this? If you look at the causative factors, Venkatesh told you, the other speakers told you, you can divide these risk factors as non-modifiable. Non-modifiable means hanebara, karma. When, to whom are you born? The family history of premature atherosclerosis. And you are male, not female. That itself is karma. You may have more risk. But beyond that, not all the risk factors are modifiable. You can act on them and you can prevent. So one is tobacco smoking. Number one, rank number one. And you can very easily stop it. And there is nothing like, I will reduce it. There is all or none. Diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol or dyslipidemia, sedentary lifestyle, not working out at all, and obesity, overweight. All these factors handsomely contribute in you getting these heart problems and heart attacks. They all are modifiable. How do you modify? Everybody has told you, and very, very simple plan. Stop tobacco, no ifs and buts. 30 minutes of exercise every day. Tell yourself that it's a crime if I go out of my house without exercising. Wake up early. It's a good habit. Then eat heart-healthy diet. Heart-healthy diet, Ranjani spoke to you at such a length. But the saransh of what she spoke was moderation. And that is all about Indian habit. Then manage your weight. Check your internet and you will come to know what is your BMI, your height and weight. And if you calculate your BMI, if it is more than 25, look at your weight, look at your shape, and go on a program. And there are enough instructors which will put you on to shape. Then have a quality sleep. You were told just now about quality sleep. It's a very important aspect. Then manage stress. There are different strokes for different folks. You learn your ways, manage stress. Then regular health checkups. If you think that you have got a problem, you've got a bad family history, you're a diabetic, you have got hypertension, your brother has got it, your father has got it, your mother has got it, then at the age of 45, stop the party and keep in regular health checks. Beyond all this, then there is something, the saransh of all this, I would say that rediscover your own age-old, time-tested Indian way of living. It has taken centuries for us to reach here, so much of tinkering, and we developed very nice way of living, whether it was our food, whether it was our waking up early, sleeping early, our way of the composition of our eating. Every 200 miles it changes in India, but it has been time-tested, developed over centuries, and in last 70-75 years, we screwed it up. So the world is rediscovering our way of living. Why not you rediscover it? And that is what the last talk told you. So beyond all this, if you think that you have got a problem, when I walk, I get discomfort, I have got high blood pressure, I have got diabetes, my family history is there, and you went to the doctors and you found out that you have a problem. Trust your doctors. We are so cynical today, we don't trust our doctors. You must understand that if you have a problem, 60% of your treatment is psychological, is your trust in your doctor and your emotional factors. And if that trust is broken, you get treated very inefficiently. Today, our politicians, our bureaucrats, our business people who run the hospitals, our media, everybody for their own small share of their pie, their money, they are doing their best to hijack medicines from doctors and disrupt this trust. Don't do that. Your doctors are very passionate. Soldiers and doctors, if they work by the rules and by the job description, lot people will die and lot patients will not get better. I remember a share of Dehelvi Saab that jahan jayega, roshni phailayega. Kisi chirag ka apna ghar nahi hota. Most of your doctors grew up their families, their children relationship, because you gobble that time and that passion. So if you have been diagnosed that your chest pain is real, the doctors will most probably ask you to do a treadmill test or some other small test like that to screen. And the screening shows that the problem is real. they would ask you to go undergo an angiography. Today, the time-tested angiogram, the formal angiogram is still the only way of 100% defining your problem. So if they say angiogram, just shut up and get the angiogram done. The angiogram will clearly tell us what is happening inside, and accordingly, you go in one of the management strategies. Conservative. Most of you will be conserved. Lifestyle, lifestyle, lifestyle. And then medications, blood thinners, statins. There's a lot of humbug going on the WhatsApp and Facebooks about statin. Don't believe that. Whatever doctors say, just follow it. Number two, some of you, the blocks and the problems may not be so mild or moderate. They may be severe. If the problem is severe, the blocks are major. And if the blocks are straightforward, then all you require is just a simple angioplasty and stenting and get it done. Today, it's very simple. The success rates are very high. And after that, if you follow the advices on the lifestyle, medications, follow up with your doctors at least twice a year, the stents will not get blocked if they are properly done. Thirdly, if the blocks are more complex, they are multiple, the problem is serious, then you may require a bypass surgery. Today, the failure of bypass surgery is less than 1%. You'll have to get it done. If the problem is more severe, you already suffered many heart attacks and the heart is badly scarred, pumping very poorly, you are in actual clinical heart failure, you are getting breathless when you walk, then you are in a serious problem and you will definitely require to trust your doctors and follow their advice. Most of you can be managed very well by conservative management, which means you will be given medicines and a proper lifestyle. In the lifestyle, it is mostly your salt intake and your fluid intake. If that is taken care of well, there are wealth of medicines today. There are fantastic menu of medicines today where you can be very well managed and kept well controlled. So follow that advice. If you have gone beyond that, and if you have a chance that you may suddenly die due to arrhythmias, or your heart is really bad, you may require certain simple devices. They look like pacemakers. They can be put in as simply as a pacemaker under local anesthesia, but you will need to undergo that. And if the problem has gone far beyond that, you think you have got weeks or a few months to live, then you may be a patient for heart transplant. Today, India is not like the old India. A lot of you may be surprised, even the governments are surprised to know that today, India is doing more heart transplants than any other countries in the world. You didn't know that. And today, the success rates in India are much high. Today, the governments of each state have nicely sorted out their scene, and the donation scenario is very different. So we have come a long way. You don't have to be scared. Unlike some of these incurable cancers, heart problem, even if you have got really bad, you can still be managed to live long and live actively. But as Ushi's told you in the beginning, that don't sell a son to buy lambs. So prevention, prevention, prevention. And for prevention, the summary of today's program was lifestyle, lifestyle, and lifestyle. And the summary of lifestyle is moderation. Thank you, Ushi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come by, and thank you so much for all the wisdom. Yes, we'll move on to the questions, and I request all the panelists to please turn on their cameras because we do have a lot of questions. I'm trying to gather all the questions and address them. So I request Dr. Javli to please stay on for another 10 or 12 minutes, because then I'll address all the questions to him as soon as I can. Now, I start with a couple of people who sent me via email as well as on YouTube. I'm getting this huge set of questions over here. First of all, everyone has conveyed their appreciation and gratitude. They say in real life, they cannot see you, but online, I believe they're able to see all of you. So I guess like in many ways, the entire lot is very grateful to you. 300, 400 people who are actually in different sites are all grateful to the panelists. And the first question here, and I'll direct the question to the doctors. The first question, please stay muted, everybody. And when I direct the question, just please unmute yourself and answer the question, right? So Dr. Javli, the first question is, once they are placed a stent, can there be calcium buildup? Can there be issues with the stent? where people keep asking you to go back every couple of months and sometimes even request a change. So what is your take on this? Could you please throw some light?
Sure. The summary of that question is, will the stent fail? Yes and no. If you are not disciplined enough, if the stent has been put not on correct indications, it will fail. So the indication has to be right. People like Venkatesh know that. If the indication was right, the artery was big, the block was simple and very highly stentable, those stents are destined to last sometimes lifelong. But the key is you, the patient, your lifestyle, your medications, your follow-up visits to make sure that nothing is going wrong. If all these three things are managed well, your stents will go on and on. If you don't do then
Go ahead.
you fail.
Okay, Dr. Javli, next question to you. Rapid fire. A lot of questions for you. The person says, 2 years back when I was 43, I got my lipid profile done. Please ask Dr. Javli that it was all in the normal range except CHDL and DHDL, which is 5.69. Am I still required to take the atorvastatin or should I stop it? What is your take, doctor, after having seen so many patients? Does it help or should I stop?
If you have got a problem, if you are on drugs, please don't your common sense and please don't use the social media professors. Follow your doctor. Statins, blood thinners, if you are taking, that is for the whole life. But if you are taking statins only just because your lipid profile was not good, which most of the time can be fixed by lifestyle alone, but if it was not fixable and they have put you on statins, most of the time it is for the whole life. But go by your doctor, don't go by arbitrary advices. Next question.
Next question to Dr. Javli is, why are many young people dying of heart attacks today? Some of the people who are physically fit, have had an episode of a friend who died on a treadmill recently without any problems which were recorded earlier, nor any family problems. We've had doctors who are 35 years collapsing today. We have the age range of between 30 and 35, people who've got a single heart attack and never survived it. What, in your opinion, is causing these heart attacks without any previous history of any medical problems? Yeah, that is the question.
These problems are better definable because we are technologically more savvy. So what was Mumbo Jumbo yesterday, today is science. But this question I should redirect to Venkatesh. He's the right guy to answer this question. Venkatesh, please.
Sure. Venkatesh, Dr. Venkatesh, please, how come the younger people are getting heart attacks? And how come without any history, people are dying on treadmills? Could you please throw some light, Dr. Venkatesh? Dr. Venkatesh, are you there?
Okay, I will answer. Today, I'm telling you that the old time-tested Indian habits of living, we spoil them. And so today, what has happened due to our madness on the GDP and changing all our environment, that we are eating wrong, we are drinking, even the water that we drink is wrong, the air that we breathe is wrong, and our mental calm is gone. Everybody's behind targets, we are very stressed. So this is the cause why our lifestyle diseases are going up and up. And because of the lifestyle diseases, we are inheriting certain chromosomal disorders, certain changes in the disease patterns that we are getting much earlier. And so this is real that today the age bar is reduced. And so we should be a little more careful about our lifestyles and careful about medical checks. And say somebody wants to join a marathon, just don't join like that. Get a medical done, get proper advices, and then go. You are getting into a super stress situation, get advised and then go into it. But overall, it is true that there are reasons why more young people are falling prey to it. Next question.
Yes, Dr. Javli, that's all for you as of now. Dr. Shalini, there's a question for you right now. And they say that, would you recommend organic products? And what in your definition does it serve as being better or otherwise when compared to the regular products? That is question number one. The second thing is, when you say women are more prone, would you recommend a health check for every woman And from what age do you recommend that they undergo a regular screening for any issues related to the heart? And the third question, I'm just giving it all to you so that you can address it all together. So are there any plant-based statins? Are you aware of it and would you prescribe it? Dr. Shalini, it's all yours.
To answer the first question, organic. It's a very complex term. Organic means which is grown very holistically without pesticides, but it's very difficult to actually know if the vegetables you are eating are really organic and don't have pesticides and the other features which they claim. So if you, for sure, if you know the person who grows the produce and you believe him and the certification is there, absolutely organic, fresh vegetable, fruits, herbs, they give you lots and lots of natural minerals and vitamins which help boost up your immunity. Absolutely, it's good to take. That's why our Indian diet is considered so good, because it's full of natural things like turmeric and coriander and all sorts of spices and all these curry leaves which help in digestion. So organic, absolutely good in a natural form. I'm not a big fan of taking pills and pills for everything. Instead of a garlic pill, you rather eat a garlic. Instead of another kind of ginger pill, you better eat a ginger itself. You can use it in tea, you can use it in your vegetables, curries, all good. I think for every culture, if you are a Punjabi, you have grown up with mustard seed oil, that's very good. A person from South, he has been eating coconut for generation, that's good. But again, as Dr. Jowli said, in moderation.
Yes.
To answer the second question, when the women should start their checkups?
Yes.
Definitely, everybody, irrespective of male and female, should get their blood pressure done, checked every 2 years. And everybody should know about 20, what is their sugar level and what is their cholesterol level. Every couple of years, they can check.
Yes.
For females, it's absolutely necessary to, after getting married, they have to do certain kinds of tests, which are cancer screening. So it's not only cholesterol, you have to do other tests, which the awareness level in India is pretty low. That's called a pap smear. So that is specifically for females. Above 40, you should do a mammogram as well for breast cancer. But everybody is aware of all these things, at least to a certain extent. But I've seen females never ever check their heart or ever ask any question regarding heart. I think that's the one reason I'm wearing red. It's for the awareness of heart among the women. That's there. So that was the purpose of wearing red, to cause awareness. In India, there's a huge, it's been considered a men's disease. People sometimes think that females don't have heart attack. It's very much happening. And like I said in my talk, women usually keep all their problems at a back burner. They would accompany their husband with a preventive check, and everything is right. What oil should I use for my husband health? And but when I ask, when are you going to do your checkup? Yeah, I think I will do it afterwards. Now my son has exams and the college going. Even the kids have gone to college, they're still worried about them. So I main purpose of my talk was to really focus on especially postmenopausal or perimenopausal women to really take their health seriously, do preventive checkups, check their cholesterol, check their sugar. Sometimes you present in the late 50s with the breathlessness when you already have had your heart weakened because of heart failure, because you had a silent heart attack and diabetes, which you were not really aware of.
Yeah.
So I think it answers the second question.
Yes.
And the third question was about the statin.
Yes.
Well, see, I have been trained as internal medicine, and I've trained in US, and I have been following allopathy. We believe in evidence. So definitely organic foods, natural foods, absolutely great. And if you combine this with physical activity and keeping your weight under control, fit, manage your stress, don't smoke, quit tobacco, and we definitely are there for you, to support you, to guide you how to quit. It's very difficult to quit by yourself. There are medications available. If after the full analysis and going through all the checkups and your heart reports, if the doctor says to prevent your future risk of heart attack, you have to take a medication called statin, I think you should be on it.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Saranyan, the next questions are for you. So what is the most appropriate time for bathing in the sun? Which part of the afternoon will you recommend? Is it pre-lunch or post 12 o'clock? The second question is, please tell us a little more about non-organic and organic milk. And the next question that they ask you is, which kind of a fruit will you recommend to a diabetic patient as to eat safely without any contraindications? So these three questions are for you, Dr. Saranyan.
The first one is about taking the sun bath. It is usually advised before 8 o'clock in the morning and post 3 in the afternoon.
Yes. So before 8 and post 3. All right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the answer is already there. Now, allopathy ways, that is one. Organic milk and non-organic milk. What is the difference, and why do you think one is better than the other?
But in Nature Cure, we are not actually big fans of milk as all.
Okay.
But we always advise, in case you feel that milk is essential as a nutrient for you, it is always advised to take A2 milk, what we call as the Desi Indian cow's milk.
Yes. Dr. Saranyan, does garlic help in heart health and cholesterol control?
Garlic is a natural
recommend?
blood thinner. Garlic is a natural blood thinner.
In what form will you recommend garlic?
Garlic always in the diet when it goes with the cooking, not separately raw or not separately in the form of garlic pill. It should go with the diet. In the soups, in the curries, what they make, they can always use garlic.
The same question on garlic. A natural diet which is included in the regular cooking enough, or should you supplement it separately? Would you recommend some method of eating it? Yes. Okay.
Natural regional foods are always supposed to be the best. And for diabetes, the most ideal fruits are papaya, and then guava and pomegranate.
Papaya, guava, and pomegranate. I think we actually spoke about this. Now, the next question is directed to Ranjini. Ranjini, there is a gentleman here, and he wants to understand what is this high protein, low carb? If you have high protein, low carb, how does it affect the kidney? Any idea about that? And the same gentleman goes on to say that he has chronic kidney disease. So what will you recommend? I have stage 4 CKD, and I'm supposed to avoid eating food with high potassium. So what is it that you will recommend for a stage 4 CKD? And his question is also about high protein, low carb. Does it affect the kidney or doesn't it? So these two, please.
Okay, I think there are two components to this. The first one about the high carb and low carb and high protein. I think that works better in generic terms for anybody who's focusing on overall health. I think it is much better for any of us to follow if you're healthy. But if you are someone with CKD, have multiple issues, I think it is definitely important for you to consider more parameters and then decide on the diet. But definitely high protein will be, it will have a negative impact. High potassium will also have a negative impact because your kidney is not functioning at its fullest. So it has to be customized for that particular patient. I think that's how it works because no generic, and it's not right to follow as well.
Okay. And what about the low potassium diet for the stage 4 CKD?
It is good. I think most of the fruits and vegetables do contain a lot of potassium. So natural ways of reducing potassium would be probably to leach the vegetables for some time, soak it in water for about an hour. But you may also lose some of the nutrients. So you could do that. Or probably strain the water and then use the water. Don't throw away the water. Use the water for the rest of the family members. But you could strain the water because most vegetables will definitely contain potassium as well. So
and the last question, Ranjini, it says studies conducted by CSE say that Indian brands of refined oil stay within the recommended trans fat limits. So in your opinion, is refined oil really bad?
Yes, I think like I was mentioning the FSSAI guideline, right, there are certain loopholes in terms of mentioning, even if there is a 0.5 or lesser trans fat in 100 grams or 100 ml, it can be declared as zero trans fat.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So 0.5 can accumulate over, if the packet is about a 1 liter packet, they would just probably give the values only for about 100 gram serving or something like that. So
Okay.
it's a very, very tricky situation. So it's always better to avoid refined foods, anything refined, right? Refined oils, refined carbs, I'm sorry, anything.
Great. So Michael, thank you so much for asking all the questions. So that was the patient, and he says he's more than happy that his questions have been handled. Do we have Dr. Ravi? Ravi, are you here? Dr. Ravi?
Here, I'm here.
Dr. Ravi, now I have a set of questions to you. Please just, switch on your camera. So the first question here is, in spite of taking, Dr. Ravi, you're here? Dr. Ravi? Jagdish, is Dr. Ravi there?
I see Dr. Ravi, ma'am, but I think his internet is not stable enough.
His internet is. So I'll request Dr. Shalini. So Dr. Shalini, here, this is what they ask you. My husband is taking Metolar XR and ONZES for blood pressure. He still gets frequent headaches, which is extremely worrying. And there's another question to the same effect, saying that in spite of being blood pressure is under control, you get splitting headaches. So what do you think should be the reason, and what should we do about it?
Dr. Ravi is here, ma'am.
Yeah,
Dr.
Ravi is here. He can answer it.
So Dr. Ravi, splitting headaches in spite of having blood pressure under control. And there's another woman who says, my husband takes Metolar XR and ONZES for BP. He still gets frequent headaches, which is extremely worrying. And please let us know if these medications have any indications with uric acid. I'm not sure where that question came from, but they want to know whether taking too much of these medications can also increase uric acid.
Okay, so point number one, both of them are having severe headaches. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, of course, yes, you are audible.
So both of them are having severe headaches. Severe headaches, most common cause could be migraine.
Yeah.
They need to go in and meet a neurologist and get a lot of investigations done before I could not advise something like this across.
Okay, sure.
screen.
Understand. So we will ask them to get in touch with you. Another person is asking you, Dr. Ravi, I turned 45 and I've been advised a master health checkup. I'm in a dilemma because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Ravi, would you advise me to go to the hospital or not? Please advise me, because I've been advised a master health checkup. Can it wait, or should I go right away?
It should wait.
Okay, great. It should wait. So there you got your answers. Now the next question is, why is it, Dr. Ravi, that when I take my blood pressure in the morning, it's much higher than when I take it in the evening? When I do it digitally, it's 110, 160. And when I do it on the sphygmomanometer, it's 90 and 140. Why these differences keep coming in both the equipment?
Depends on whether you're doing it yourself or someone else is doing it for you, whether they're tying it loosely versus tightly. And there are variations, diurnal variations, which happen at different times of the day. Depends on whether you're taking your blood pressure in the morning on empty stomach and in the evening after meals. There's so many variabilities we really can't cover. And then the digital machine often has batteries. If the batteries are getting weaker, they're going to get erroneous with their results. So there are multiple things that could be the explanation, and you need to just check them one after the other to see whether this is what is happening.
Okay, there's one question for you again now, Dr. Ravi. Can you please let me know, I have low blood pressure, low blood sugar, and I'm terribly overweight. If I take care of one, the other shoots up. Even now with all the care, my blood pressure is 90 and 62. So how can we account for this, that I have lots of weight and no blood pressure and no sugar? Low sugar and low blood pressure.
Yeah, I've not seen this person. I don't know her, but I think I can say safely that if she gets rid of her extra body weight, everything will take care of itself.
Okay, but she says if I take care of one, the other shoots up.
Not likely, because the moment you lose weight, your BP is not going to rise up, your sugar is going to come down, you're going to stop taking medicines, you'll feel much better, you'll feel healthier.
Okay, great. So this is another question, the last one for you, Dr. Ravi. It says a very informative sessions. Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Everybody's names are mentioned. I'm diagnosed with hypertension about 7-8 years ago. I've been on a dose of Olmazest 10 milligrams. I exercise regularly. My weight is under control and my BP is stable and normal. Is it possible for me to get off the meds anytime in my life with lifestyle control, or these meds have to be taken forever in spite of my blood pressure being normal? I have a strong family history of high BP.
Again, it's very important that I see the patient and get all the investigation done. So if there is proteins being lost in the urine,
yep,
this person probably going to need taking the ACE inhibitors or the angiotensin receptor blockers for a long time. It's not just simply for blood pressure control, but it has got other beneficial effects. And by and large, the thumb rule is once you start taking antihypertensives, you're taking it lifelong.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. So there's one question. I love this doctor's sense of humor. Don't trouble unless trouble troubles you. So they want to ask you a question, which they want you to tackle in a humorous way from Mark Hyman's book. It says, eat fat, get thin. What is your take on that?
Change your mirrors.
Okay. So eat fat and get thin. Dr. Ravi says, change your mirrors. Right? Yeah. So I have another 2 questions which have come up now. Yes. This is Dr. Saranyan. In naturopathy, would you suggest prebiotics and probiotics? If no milk or yogurt, how do you get prebiotics and probiotics? This is for you, Dr. Saranyan.
Prebiotics and probiotics, we do suggest only in specific conditions. When we see that it is definitely absolutely needed, only then we suggest. It's not suggested for everybody.
Okay.
But then we always advise consumption of buttermilk liberally, diluted buttermilk liberally. Milk and curd is something we don't very liberally advise for everybody, but buttermilk we do, yes.
Okay, buttermilk. All right.
Yeah,
so Dr. Venkatesh, are you back? Dr. Venkatesh, can you hear us? Are you here?
Yeah, yes, I am here.
Okay, great. So let me also send you a couple of questions. People have been referring to you. So when you take medications for high blood pressure, Telma 20, and diabetes, Istomat 50 and 500 mg, my sister's losing all her hair and she feels also depressed. Is this because of a side effect? And would you recommend some other medicine? Because do medications for high blood pressure also result in any other side effects?
Well, Dr. Ravi said this, that there are no medications without any side effects.
Yes.
Hair loss is a very non-specific symptom. If you read the list of side effects of most medicines, hair loss will be one of them. So you can't assume that hair loss is because of the medicines or one medicine or the other. There is something called as telogen effluvium, which is basically during periods of stress, people can lose hair. So I think it is best that this is addressed first by a dermatologist and see if there is any problem.
I'm coming there.
Okay.
Then one decides whether it is because of a medicine side effect. One assumes that the patient has gone to a qualified physician who was examined and then decided that these are the medicines which suit you. Therefore, it is best to stick with those medicines, because different patients need different kinds of medications. There are 30 odd BP medicines, and the doctor would have thought through what would be the best for you, and then it would have been given. So in case there is a doubt that this may be causing a certain side effect like hair loss, I think one could go back to the physician who prescribed and see if there is an alternative. Normally, if a particular medicine is prescribed for a specific reason, for example, if a diabetic hypertensive is there, the medicine which was mentioned is one of the best for that combination of problems. Therefore, we must rule out other causes of hair loss, like stress, for example, or thyroid disease, or even hair or skin disease.
Okay.
So consult a dermatologist, and then you could probably go back to a doctor and ask if there is a change required.
Okay, the next question for you, Dr. Venkatesh, is leg pain and ankle swelling almost always a sign of some heart problem, or could it be due to any other reason? Always getting ankle swelling by evening, and also leg pain occasionally, especially in the colder weather. Okay.
The ankle swelling is a very common symptom. Traditionally, if you went back about 40 or 50 years ago, if somebody thought that a patient has leg swelling, they would have said, this is a gone case. I mean, I'm not being facetious here, because This would usually come from heart disease, kidney disease, or liver disease. But now we know that there are a lot of other causes of ankle swelling, or what we call as ankle edema. Simple things like, for example, certain medicines which are used for, let's say, blood pressure, what are called as calcium channel blockers, can cause that. If somebody has varicose veins, that can cause leg swelling. Some people are overweight and can get ankle swelling. So if somebody has ankle swelling, it is best that we go to a physician, and a once over is given, and all of these systems like the blood pressure, the legs, the kidneys, the liver, etc. are checked, and the specific reason is assigned as to why the leg swelling is there. So it's not necessary that the medications cause ankle swelling, or ankle swelling is because of a specific reason in every case. Ankle swelling has multiple reasons, and some of them are not that sinister as well. So some people can simply have benign ankle swelling, which is towards the evening it is more, and by the time they sleep and wake up in the morning, it's not there. So it may not be that serious sometimes. Therefore, I think it's best, once ankle swelling is noted, a doctor sees and exactly tries to figure out what exactly is going on.
I'm not sure, Dr. Venkatesh, if you remember Shwetang Shukla. He says to specifically tell you he's 33 years old. He had an MI. So you saved him, and Dr. Shalini helped him to quit smoking. So he says that thanks to both of them that I have a new lease of life. And he says, like, thank you to both of you that I'm healthier, I'm sober, and I'm just 33-year-old. So thank you.
I'm glad he quit smoking. That's, I think, I'm sure Dr. Shalini will be very happy about it.
Yeah, so you helped him with the MI, and Dr. Joshi got me quit smoking. So there's a big thanks and a very big write-up that's come by. Now, the next question is how to overcome issues with the thyroid. Any idea? Does thyroid have anything to do with heart problems? This question is directed to Dr. Shalini. So Dr. Shalini, how to overcome thyroid issues? And does thyroid issue also cause high blood pressure and other problems?
Well, to answer the question, thyroid is a butterfly-shaped organ right over here in the bottom of the neck, not over here. Because so many people come, I have a throat pain, itching. I think my thyroid is bad. So thyroid is over here. So let me clarify that. And yes, the thyroid most common is hypothyroidism, which is under functioning. So the thyroid is not making enough hormone for your normal metabolism. So we just give a supplement to compensate and make your body 100% balanced. So I call it a condition. Thyroid replacement does not cause any side effects if you are constantly following with a doctor who is checking the levels, which is called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone levels, and adjusting. People get very anxious. I'm on 50, you are making it 100. It's micrograms. It is just a supplement. And the question was, does it affect heart? Hypothyroidism, if untreated, can cause a lot of problems. I mean, the list is very huge, including effect on the heart. It can go to a myxedema coma if the levels go very high. I've treated one patient with 519 TSH level, normal being 4. His cholesterol was off the roof. And I just did some workup for the thyroid, treated the thyroid. Within few months, it came down, and the cholesterol came down automatically. So yes, there is all the organs are interconnected in the body. And I think, what was the third part of the question?
I think, would you have heart issues and high blood pressure if you have thyroid issues?
So basically, over functioning of thyroid, which is called hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease, many kinds are there, to name a few. It can cause damaging effect to the heart, because the heart rate goes up. You can have atrial fibrillation, haphazard heart rate. So yes, either low levels or very high levels, both can affect the heart. And I think one should see a doctor periodically and get it checked out and get the appropriate treatment.
Yes, thank you. Now, Dr. Ravi, one question to you. Is sleep related to diseases? How many hours do you think we should sleep? And does lack of sleep end up in having heart issues? What is your take on sleep And how would you recommend? How many hours minimum do you recommend? Because almost all diseases are related to sleep or lack of it. Does too much cause problem and does too less cause problem? Please just give us like Dr. Venkatesh, if you have 1 minute. Dr. Venkatesh, you may please feel free to leave. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. But Dr. Ravi, please take on this question.
So sleep.
Dr. Venkatesh, bye. See you around.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a ton. Thanks a ton.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. We have just another 5 minutes. We are closing in 2 minutes, in fact. So this is one of the second last questions. Go ahead, Dr. Ravi.
Sleep regenerates, sleep rejuvenates.
Yeah.
But like everything else, too much of it is too bad. So less than 5 hours and more than 9 hours are associated with medical conditions. You can get heart attacks, you can get high blood pressure, a lot of other problems. So definitely not a good thing to sleep too less on a consistent basis. Once in a while, it's okay. Or to sleep too much on a consistent basis.
Okay, great. Dr. Saranyan, last question for you. He says, what is the difference between Senda salt and low sodium salt? Do you think there's a difference between Senda namak and low sodium salt? Next thing is, what will you recommend being a naturopath for thyroid issues? Do you have any specific product that you would recommend for hypothyroidism and mood swings?
Senda namak is something like what is more commonly used in the north, but then we don't usually differentiate for Senda namak or pink salt or something like that. We always recommend use normal rock salt, sea rock salt, but in moderation, because when it comes to health, it's always to be low salt diet is always fine, even if you're having a normal diet or for some particular therapeutic purpose. So it is always better to go for a simple sea rock salt. That is always fine. Second thing, what was the second question, madam?
About, I think, I'm not sure, 1 second.
Thyroid.
Hypothyroidism. Do you have anything in naturopathy for hypothyroidism?
Hypothyroidism, it is actually, it is more of an integrated approach. What we do, we involve yoga practice, we correct their dietary patterns, and then we involve activity, do a one-to-one counseling and find out what exactly is going wrong. And then we see what medications they're taking, are they taking regularly? Because most of the hypothyroid patients, what we see, they are not on regular medication. They do for 2 months, then they tell they didn't go back to the doctor, they forgot, they didn't go for review. So, and then we correct that, ask them to get back to their physician, then come back with them, work together with what their physician has told. Then when we try to modify the diet and then teach them very specific yoga protocol, then they respond very well and consistently.
Yes, sure. So the one more last question to you, Dr. Saranyan. It says like, do you have anything in naturopathy for increased uric acid? Do you have anything specifically in naturopathy for increased uric acid? If so, what is it?
We work on a lot of uric acid patients. We advise them to take a lot of Loki, bottle guard. Bottle guard in the diet. We ask them to start taking alternate days plantain pith juice.
Plantain pith juice and
on alternate days. We ask them to reduce salt in their diet. Avoid too much of non-vegetarian food, and we very strictly ask them to avoid alcohol. And the most bad thing what we see most of them is mixing alcohol with too much of meat, irregular food habits. And then there is one simple forgotten herb which is usually very, very highly used in Malaysia and Singapore, but then we grow in our own natural farm. It is called as Orthosiphon spiralis, otherwise called as it is called as Java tea. It's a very simple leaf. So they can prepare a decoction out of these tea bags and have twice a day. It works very well for reducing uric acid levels.
And there is a question for you from Singapore. It says, what is the treatment for vascular calcification nutritionally and through medication in naturopathy? What is the treatment for vascular calcifications nutritionally and through medication in naturopathy?
But this is again going to work together. It is not going to just work along with naturopathy. I want to be very realistic and very honest. It will definitely work together with a lot of dietary interventions and then postural correction. Some practices what we do for enhancing and reducing the vascular inflammation as well as increasing the patency of the vascular walls.
Okay, fine. So I'm going to call it a day now. We've had a lot more questions coming in. This will never stop even if you sit the whole day. So I'm very, very grateful to all the doctors. Do me a favor. Please just put on that slide for me, Jagdish. Let me just take this opportunity to thank everyone on YouTube, everyone who's logged in on Zoom as well as YouTube Just please note, write to ushi@gmail.com. Any of the questions that have not been answered, please just send it to write2ushi@gmail.com. I'm very, very grateful to every single one of you, starting from Dr. Shri, to Dr. Ravi, to Dr. Venkatesh, to Dr. Shalini, Ranjini, and almost, of course, my dear friend, Dr. Vivek Jowli. So every single one of you who's come in by here and added so much value, 2.5 hours just flew away. And every single person has sent me hundreds of thank you messages to the wonderful doctors. And there is also a person who sent me a message saying, can I have all the email IDs and the telephone number of the doctors? Once you bring them on the panel, we can be sure they are trustworthy. So I'm not sure what this means, but I think because of the fighting job I do in my other world, I believe that a lot of credit goes to all of you. My heartfelt gratitude to all the doctors, to all the wonderful people who are logged in onto YouTube Live, as well as this. The YouTube Live remains. So I'll request all of you to keep sharing it with all the wonderful people. Shalini, thank you so much for getting that insert in the Rajasthan newspaper. It made a very big difference. A lot of people were asking. I'm sure that, we can also send in some pictures and give what people think about it. And then I'll send you all the video recordings in case you want. I believe that these sessions are held once in a month. Feel free to write to us what you like. We keep choosing different topics and subjects. Dr. Sri Kumar, I'm so, so grateful for all the support. Bindu and my whole family out there in Kerala, I believe that you've done a fabulous job. To all my friends, my family, Jagdish, you need to show yourself now. I believe that Jagdish, Deepthi, Lavanya, everybody who's sitting in different parts of the world, they've done a fabulous job of helping me with all the tech registration, sending tedious emails. Believe me, it's a thankless job. Believe me, nobody will even come in and say thank you to any one of us. But I still think that we need to keep going ahead with this. I need to keep seeing this go through every once in a month. Feel free to connect me to as many people as possible. Come to Facebook, Dr. Ushi Mohandas, go to Twitter, come to Instagram. Ranjini, thank you so much. You're very young, in my opinion. You look very young. So I'm just taking the liberty of calling you young. And I just believe that you've done a fabulous job along with all of us. Dr. Saranyan, I'm sure lots of people will want your reference. Dr. Shalini, don't blame me if your OPDs get a lot more full, because everyone's looking and everyone's going to come there with a great deal of hope. I will just connect them by email if anybody wants your email ID, and feel free to take them up if you think you can help them in some way or the other.
Sure.
Right? So
doing telemedicine all the way.
Yes, everybody, Dr. Ravi and Dr. Venkatesh, I'm sure you enjoyed this. I'm sure that in your entire career, you wouldn't have really done something like this. So this is something where you get a one-on-one with hundreds of people and you can just talk to them straight on and straight from the heart. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call it a great, great evening. I believe that you have a chance to life and you have a brilliant choice to make it great. Luckily, the internet has saved us. It hasn't conked off. Thanks to technology. And I keep saying thank you to all the fiber optics and everything else this government and this country has, if not for which we wouldn't have been able to meet. My last concluding sentence, I believe I've done justice to everybody. And in case I haven't, then you can beat me up after this show. But I will just say that in a society that is busy making you count money, count calories, count pounds, and count steps to be successful, I think we need to be a rebel and start counting our blessings. And I think today we are all blessed to be here, blessed for free. We didn't pay any consult to anybody. We got so much of information. It's recorded live and it's on YouTube. Jagdish and full team from everywhere. Without you guys, I couldn't have done anything that I'm doing. We went through so much of labor, and I still think my friends and family who support me, without you guys and me constantly bombarding you on WhatsApp and other groups, I think I've really chewed your brains so that you will bring in some people. We can do a lot better. I hope and look forward to so many contacts in north of India and other parts of the world. For all the doctors who came by, thank you. Thank you so much. Means a lot. Means a lot. So we'll call it a night and we'll request everybody to just say bye. Switch on your cameras. Whoever is here, Could you please switch on your cameras? And I just want you to make that beautiful heart sign. If you can make that heart sign, I think we'll just take a couple of screenshots. So I want you to all switch on your cameras and just make a nice heart sign. Deepti, are you there? So Jagdish, Deepti, I think this is the correct time. Just give it to us. Make a nice heart sign. Have a big smile on your face. And however you want to, don't be perfect. So long as you don't stick the middle finger up, I'm okay. So just go for it. So everyone just please have some patience. The ending is very important. To every one of my friends, Catherine, Silvana, I can still see all of you. Thank you for being there with me all the time. Okay. Every one of you. Dr. Sibia, thank you so much for being with all of us. Yes, all of them. Deepti, there you go. Everyone's showing the heart like as Deepti suggested. So I hope you've captured all of us.
That was my opening, my
Yes.
heart.
So all of you for wearing red, for showing me the heart, and for everybody who's doing this. Jaishil, thank you so much. He's my senior from Davangere. He's logged in all the way from Malaysia. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Send us your feedback. Please help us add anything more that you want. Imagine from the comforts of your home, you've actually been very productively investing some hours of your time. Oh God, there are people without clothes coming. So just be careful. I think I should switch off the meeting. When the cameras are on, you see all kinds of strange things. Bye, everybody. Good night. And I'll just request Jagdish and Deepti to stay back. Everyone else, thank you.